thing about eating meat and our Kenyan culture, the eating of meat is directly related to whether you have money
or not. Hey.
There was liver, but
Ikoshida.
I had a little bit of liver, but I mean...
If you're not eating meat.
Or if you're not eating meat, you don't have money.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
It's interesting because on the other side of the world, it was that if you do have money, in other parts of the world, if you do have money, then you realize that, there are certain foods that you should eat that would be healthier for you than meat. You see?
That story of meat and
you
the
could
West,
buy, and you had the money to buy those things.
It's what they feed their would-be meat products with. Yes. And every time that you hear things about red meat being this, red meat being the other, a lot of it has to do with the research that has been conducted in the West.
Yeah.
So what do they feed their cows on?
It's true.
It's not the cow.
It's not the cow.
What do they feed it on? Our cows don't eat hooves.
It's true, but like the whole organic movement in the get out of here, Eric. The whole organic movement in the United States, for example, is extremely expensive. I mean, you buy one organic tomato as it were for $10. It's ridiculous.
This is now the cyclical nonsense of development because we were organic from day one.
Yeah.
Manure was something that the cow sort of like emitted from its system, and it was known as manure.
Yeah.
All right? Or something that had rotted was manure. It went back and enriched the soil. Then we're told fertilizer.
So use fertilizer.
It adds value to this
Synthetic.
thing as GMO, MGO. Then suddenly, the nonsensical cycle system kicks in place, and what do you have? Organic.
And now it becomes very expensive.
And it's a big thing. And you're thinking, wait, this organic, this is what we used to do before.
It's what we have now
This
here
is
on
what
this
we
side of the
still
world.
Yes, this is what we've always had. Yes, exactly.
Small kitchen garden is organic.
It's actually it's organic. For sure,
That's
it's
why I
organic.
told folks in the US, I said, you guys, you know what, you're being robbed.
Being
Daylight
conned.
robbery. You're being conned. Because these things, we have them in our backyards here.
So people want to talk organic. They want to go organic. Well, by all means, go organic. Discover what was discovered so long ago that we actually forgot it had been discovered. so now you're rediscovering it.
You're rediscovering it. It's the cycle of life. Welcome to the show this Friday, the 28th day of August 2020. It's the final Friday of the month. As in, just like that, we're on to September. Hey.
The ember months await us.
That's it, eh? Ember. Well, today we'll be discussing a lot of things. So we can see what the DPP and the EACC have been busy. This has been their week. Eh? It's like they were just timing. So this one we do on Tuesday, then this one on Wednesday, then this one on Thursday.
There'll be more. At this rate, there'll be more arrests today.
You can see it.
Today.
They'll unleash something.
Remember we discussed and said, this can't go on indefinitely. This pillaging as though it's as though the new order of things in this country, this can't go on indefinitely. And remember, we even were bold enough as to predict that people will get arrested. Significantly, they will go to jail. And the people who will top this list, if you ask me, are our governors. Because they may have been silent on the matter, but they have been named in some really, really horrible pillaging. You do the maths. Even if you take the smallest amount that you think a county could have received, all right? Let's give it 2 billion, all right? Now, 2 billion times 8, because it's 8 years.
Billion.
Yes, 16 billion. Go to that county and ask yourself, is there any indication that 16 billion was spent in this particular county? And the answer will be a resounding no.
Why?
Now, others have received more, 20, some 30 in total. And you ask, okay, let's be kind and say half of that money. Can you see it manifested somewhere in the country in terms of the things that we've been told were going to be done? And the answer, once again, will be no. But if you want to get really arithmetical about this, you'll ask, some of these things were actually donated. So someone didn't actually pay for this. So can we deduct what was actually donated or what they received and yet is still meaningful? What you'll be dealing with is one shocking scenario. So if they are being arrested, there must be good reason why they're being arrested.
It's interesting that as we see, the whole all the documentation that comes from the office of the DPP, he lays the ground. Very interesting. I'm sure we'll go into details of this some more.
Yes.
But then after all said and done, he says, based on all of this, we have found good reason why such people or the subjects at hand should be apprehended and then charged, you know? So it's like he lays the ground, lays the foundation before he starts to build. Just on what you said, there is good reason why.
We will look at that. How Turkana spent 77.3 billion shillings in 6 years. 77 billion shillings. In 6 years. Anyway, let's start where we always begin the show, and this is tracking the numbers, COVID-19, new infections in the country and around the world.
So with an infection rate of 8%, it seems to be stabilizing in Kenya with the record of 373 new COVID-19 cases. According to Rashid Aman, the new cases were detected from 4,663 samples tested across the country since the day before. Total cases in the country now at 33,389. And we know that 3 more people died, and that was the report as of yesterday. So Kemri also received, let's put it this way, he was speaking at the Kenya Medical Research Institute, where he received a donation from 500 test kits from the Japanese government. So these ones were actually seen and received. And the fatalities rose to 569. So Kenya now at 33,389. Still talks of how the curve is flattening in the country. Yet to be seen. The next 14 days will be critical in looking at those numbers. And also vis-a-vis the number of reagents and test kits that will come in to the country. All right? Let's look at the rest of the world. And now over 24 million cases, with 24,624,999 around the world, with 835,627 deaths. 17,092,747 have recovered from corona. We're still looking at the United States. There was an increase, a significant increase yesterday of cases around the world, in the US specifically. 33,000 cases in the continental US yesterday, taking the number to 6,046,634, and 184,796 deaths in the US. It still continues to rise. The cases, there were 33,000 yesterday, there were 26,000 in June. On a daily average. So the cases continue to increase, and that's clear. We see that. In India, still looking at about 8,000 cases per day, and as of yesterday, India had done 38,576,510 tests. So it's clear why there's so many that are being found every day. Unfortunately, the death toll is at 61,694. Mexico still continues to record high cases of COVID per day. 129 million is the population, with yesterday's cases at 6,026, with deaths reported yesterday of 518. All right. Let's look at those 2 countries on the continent whereby things for the longest time had remained stable. And let's look at Rwanda. And in terms of what they've been able to do, the cases in Rwanda now are 3,672, with 15 deaths so far. The country has conducted a total number of 388,078 tests. This is against a population of 13 million. So under 400,000. However, this is what they've been able to find. Let's look at Uganda, where in Uganda now the caseload is at 2,679, with 28 deaths, and having conducted 363,802 tests against a population of 45,951,000. So that's what we're looking at there. Have they been able to contain it so far? Still yet, so good.
So total deaths in Uganda, 28.
Yes.
Total deaths in Kenya, 567.
Yes. Total tests done in Kenya, 460,000, right? Total cases or total tests done in Uganda, 363,000. More or less the same population in Uganda and Kenya. All right.
It's about 100,000 more tests in Kenya.
Yes.
And the total number of cases in Kenya, 33,000 against 2,600 in Uganda.
Yes.
Okay.
Uganda was able to curb the spread. Even if you want to use these two countries as a comparative analysis, they've been able to curb this.
So, if you look at the Western world, things that we take for granted here and which are enforceable, like the wearing of a mask, you hear it becomes news. Like in Paris, it is now news because it is mandatory to wear a face mask.
Yeah.
Now,
yes.
It's announced yesterday actually, but now it is. So you ask yourself, other countries are still grappling with it. The US, man, it's a free for all. and then you wonder, why do these people imagine that their COVID numbers are doing what the COVID numbers are doing? Moving up at a very, very rapid pace. You know, this one didn't require too much thinking, just understanding what was basic. But then there's this question that also comes to my mind when I listen to news about COVID. Is it correct for people to sort of like try to go back to what we previously considered to be normalcy when the numbers go down? Or should we continue putting the lid on things until it's more or less eradicated, like New Zealand reported at some point when there was zero? They went for a period of, I think, a month, no new infections. They opened up the economy, lo and behold. Which really is the right approach here? How should one look at this? Because now...
Can you sustain those measures?
Yes.
For how long? You know, that's why the other
because the economy, the issue of the economy will come in.
Yep.
Why I ask this question is because there's been talk from yesterday's reporting of what President Uhuru, now this is the prophetic aspect of it, implied was heading towards opening bars and nightclubs. Are we ready? And is it the thing that we need to do? If you're talking about opening the economy, because that aspect of our economy is suffering, they're hemorrhaging badly. Is there a way of meeting them halfway so that the risk factor, which would increase infections, is minimized and yet the business goes on?
Meeting them halfway basically is the citizens doing what they're supposed to do. Because you'll see that if the bars were to be reopened, there'll be protocols. Ensure there is a physical distancing in the premise. You can even institute and say anybody who sits there can only consume this much, right? And it's the responsibility of the property manager or the property owners to ensure their patrons are not flouting this, but people will flout. So now it's where you can be given that freedom. You can be told, let's do this, but are you going to abide by the rules?
More importantly, are Kenyans interested in abiding by the rules?
It's another nice way of putting it. Are we really interested in abiding by these rules?
Yes.
Because if we are not, then that's where we end up just having all these issues. Anyway, at 17 minutes after 6, let's take a break and take a look at the skies. Look at how the weather is going to look like around the country and around the world, the major cities in the world today. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The live stream is up on www.spicefm.co.ke as well as Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. And you can watch this show on the move wherever you are. Good morning.
Spice FM, Malindi.
It's a mostly cloudy morning in Nairobi at 14 degrees. We'll see highs of 24 today, and there is a chance of a shower later on. It's mostly cloudy in Njeri at 14 as well. Highs of 22 and lows of 13. Likely to be a wet weekend around the country. It's clear in Nakuru this morning at 13. Going to thunderstorms later with highs of 23 and lows of 12. Clear skies in Eldoret at 12 degrees. We'll see highs of 20 and lows of 11 with thunderstorms forecasted for the later parts of the day. Partly cloudy in Kisumu at 19 degrees, highs of 27 and lows of 18 today, and a chance of showers well into the weekend. That'll be in the case in Kakamega as well. 24 degrees the high today with lows of 15, and they will experience thunderstorms later. 23 degrees and mostly cloudy in Mombasa, highs of 28 and lows of 23. In Malindi, it's partly cloudy at 24, highs of 28, coming down to lows of 23. Stepping out of Kenya into Kampala at 18 degrees, partly cloudy conditions. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 17 with showers expected later. Dar es Salaam is foggy this morning. It's likely to be that way throughout the day. Highs of 31 and lows of 21. And in Johannesburg today, 10 degrees, clear skies, highs of 23 and lows of 10, signaling the official end of the South African winter. Lagos is clear at 24 degrees. It'll change later though. We'll go to highs of 29 and lows of 23 with cloudy conditions later. Let's look into Europe where it's cloudy in London at 14 degrees. A chance of a sprinkle later on with highs of 19 and lows of 11. And in Paris, it's mostly cloudy at 17 degrees with highs of 23 and lows of 12. There'll be an afternoon of rain well into Saturday and Sunday. Isolated thunderstorms taking place in New York at 32 degrees. That'll be the high for today. They'll wake up to more rain with lows of 23.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
20 minutes after
FM,
6. How
Nairobi.
about we start the day with today's proverb, CT?
Well. A man who marries a beautiful woman and a farmer who grows corn by the roadside have the same problem. Let me repeat it. A man who marries a beautiful woman and a farmer who grows corn by the roadside have the same problem.
So it's by the roadside, vehicles will be passing, blowing dust onto this corn. It's the same problem.
Once you're on the roadside, you will attract certain things just by virtue of your geographical location. Beauty here is being referred to more or less like a geographical location. Figure out what this is supposed to mean. It's not really that complicated. No.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't really guard it. Okay, so let's look at the headlines. Where do you want to start?
Where not to start?
Since we're talking of COVID, page 6 of the Business Daily, there's a headline on that page. Lack of budget keeps 9 billion COVID funds idle in counties. Let me explain. It means the government budgeted. They've said, yes, this money should be given to the counties. But there is this small detail of a budget that is often required that before the Treasury releases such monies to the counties. Now, there are some counties who have not provided, this is present tense, have not provided budgets on how, meaning a plan essentially of how they plan to use the money which was supposed to be wired to them. So this money is sitting put, awaiting. Now what this means is this. They didn't plan for the bed capacity. The very details of what this money was intended for has not been budgeted for. And remember, it was specific. This one was specific. Now, it means, therefore, that the story we've been discussing on and off regarding the readiness and the preparedness still doesn't exist in some counties in the country.
Even till now.
Even as I'm
Which
talking to you
counties
now.
are these? So,
No. The
how
paper
much
there-
has not been drawn? How much?
Let me just let me talk about the amount. All right, that was wired 113.1.
That big number that bothers you.
No, it doesn't actually bother me. The billion shillings, I understand. Remember, I need to break this down.
Okay.
This money was, there was 5 billion from the government.
Yep.
There was 350 million from Denmark Development Corporation.
Right.
5.939 billion from the county's own resource revenues. Right? These are the monies that were supposed to have gone into this. All right? Now, this report by the Auditor General names the following counties as people who they had not tabled the expenditure reports on the pandemic concerns. I'm just going to read them. Okay? Nairobi, Mombasa, Embu, Kirinyaga, Bomet, Lamu, Mandera, and Marsabit.
They have not done what?
You need to have presented this.
So this is the controller of budget saying, I cannot authorize the release of this money because
this is the Auditor General reporting and saying that when I look at my books and I look at how things should have been done, there's this money that is sitting somewhere, and when you look, you find this money was intended for COVID and the functions around COVID. But from what we can see, this money is likely. So the report says there was a need to have certain things in place before the money could be released. Those things are not in place. Simple. Tell us what's on your mind, Eric.
I'm trying to figure that out. Because I'm finding it difficult to fathom that there are certain counties, and these are counties that are in the Republic of Kenya, that have not come up with a plan of how they want to implement measures of fighting COVID-19, and yet they're reporting the same to their peers at the Council of Governors.
Yes.
And they're reporting the same to other stakeholders.
Yes.
And it's clear that this is amount of money that is required. And what you're supposed to do so that you can draw this money is you're supposed to give a plan to the controller of budget. Controller of budget approves, authorizes that.
Yes.
And then now you access the money.
Yes.
And we are saying that so many months down the road,
some people haven't done that.
This county with CECs for finance, for health, with other public officers have not been able to come up with a plan.
Yes.
How?
Look, the total amount that the government had released for COVID was in total 13.1 billion. Okay. Now, the total amount of money that counties have spent, means they've been given, was 3.4 billion, which means there's a balance of 9.7 billion balance which has not been spent. And what I am reporting, or what I'm talking about is a report that the reason why it hasn't been spent is because the requirements, the details of what is required before this money can be given to you to expend have not been met.
That's interesting, because in the Standard, it says on page 12, the Controller of Budget says funds meant to fight the virus were spent on electricity and water bills, seminars and board meetings. How counties used COVID-19 billions on TVs and gumboots. Billions meant for quarantine centers and frontline staff in the counties were spent without budgets. So they were not budgeted for, according to the Controller of Budget. And this is from a new report. I don't know if it is the same report that it is.
They're just going into details.
Now going into the details of this and saying now this which they didn't have a plan for. Now you're seeing that they've spent this money based on what CT is saying now. That they've spent this money on non-essentials. Now when it came to COVID. The money was part of, that 13.1 billion shillings allocated to the COVID-19 fight. Although an audit of the funds is yet to be done, a quick look at the Special Budget Review Implementation Report on the utilization of the funds from March 13th, when the first COVID case was reported, also showed that most of the funds were utilized on logistics, conferences, seminars, and board meetings. For example, of the 106 million spent in the 4 months in Baringo County, 58 million was used to buy foodstuff, drinking water, fuel and lubricants, leaving 48 million for personal protective equipment and paying of allowances to frontline healthcare workers. Of the 92 million spent in the county government of Busia, 15 million was used to pay electricity and water bills and to purchase 10 tons of chlorine and other water treatment chemicals. The county also paid for a supply of charcoal to Alupe Isolation Center at 329,000 shillings. Another example. In Kericho, Governor Paul Chepkwon's administration spent 23 million on awareness and publicity on coronavirus. Allowances to frontline healthcare workers cost 5.3 million shillings of the total 108 million utilized in the period under review.
In defense of the counties, the Auditor General said that the timing of these funds, it was released too close to the end of the 2019-2020 financial year. And as a result of this, there are some county governments that did not prepare budgets for the utilization of these COVID gains.
So that's one that's clear. There's some who didn't provide budgets. There's some who have shown expense sheets on what they've spent money on so far. And then there are some who spent quite a lot this is what this report is basically saying. Spent quite a lot of money, but it would appear from the report that it was not in the direct fight against COVID-19.
Depends on what you want to call direct.
Oh, this is what the
Some
report
would
is saying.
argue that, ensuring that the isolation and quarantine facilities have charcoal so that you can cook, that is direct. That's a direct intervention.
Very
of
true,
it.
but the money that was intended for expanding that capacity was the 5 billion. That's what it was for, infrastructure.
The separate 5 billion.
Yes, infrastructure. That's what it was intended for. Not charcoal, not snacks,
Not conferences.
not conferences. It was just that.
Let me give you another example, so maybe it makes it a little bit clear. Elgeyo Marakwet County spent 240,000 shillings to buy 40-inch TV screens. Mandera bought gumboots at 3,750,000, TV sets and accessories at 345,000, gas cooker 4-burner at 260,000, and 2 gas cylinders, one at 60,000.
Gas cylinder.
No. You are
How
thinking
big?
of the domestic.
No. And 2 gas cylinders, one at 60,000 and another 6 kg at 56,000 shillings.
A 6 kg gas cylinder.
No. That reporting may not be accurate.
It's here. That's why I said you should wait so I can finish the details.
So this things.
Muranga County, let me just a little bit more, Eric. Oblige me. Muranga County spent 1 million shilling on landscaping. I don't know how this will help the fight against COVID, but okay. And signage, while a paltry 336,000 was spent to allowances for health workers. Okay. Landscaping, 1 million shillings. Okay.
It's called beautification.
Okay. So as you're approaching the
Aesthetic.
Remember, there's a new ICU facility that has been put up in Muranga County. All right? So landscaping around that ICU facility.
is important.
It is.
Okay. So
Landscaping also involves providing open space where people can actually sit.
heal.
Yes, or wait, or do what people do when they go to hospital.
Oh, okay.
So that's landscaping.
Okay.
It doesn't mean just
Planting.
having weird-looking plants. Planting grass is also part of landscaping.
I got it. I'm with you. Okay.
But then there's some counties, for example, Baringo County, a grant of 84 million requested through the Office of the Controller of Budget and transferred to a special purpose account at the CBK had not been utilized by the 31st of July. Right? But the same county had spent 106 million shillings from its own contributions to purchase emergency foodstuff for vulnerable people across all the sub-counties, bought PPEs, purchased water tanks, and paid allowances to the frontline health workers. So you can see there's a balance of, so 106 has gone into direct interventions, then there's an extra 84 million that has been requested for that has not yet been drawn.
Right.
So the questions will always emerge like, okay, so what is the plan here? And I guess some of these things, until you ask the questions and understand, so justify what why you needed to do this. If you talk about, for example, awareness creation, which is one thing that we kept talking about, if a county has spent money on awareness creation, what we should be asking is, all right, so how much have you spent? What awareness? Where? Over what period of time? Because was it a necessity for a county to do? Absolutely, I think so. Then, so the report, of course, by the Control of Budget is quite juicy and interesting. I think that the further questions will need to be asked on.
And then there's the question of the reporting of the report by
Yeah.
the Control of Budgets.
Yep.
Because sometimes you get the impression that whoever wrote the article chose certain aspects of it.
Of course, look at the juicy parts.
Yes. Auditors report.
TVs,
Yes,
gumboots.
you feel-
Gumboots are gumboots required? Of
Yes,
course,
they
gumboots are required. They're part
Are
of
TVs
PPEs.
required? Yes, TVs are required.
But by who and where? And at how much?
You see, the thing is, if you look at any auditor's report, not even the Auditor General's, they tend to be detailed.
Yeah.
And they explain and they give reasons. And it isn't what we are reading as being contained in the newspaper report.
Yeah.
The newspaper report reports aspects of it at some point.
Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads. Hey, there's something that the people who are constructing the road, the expressway from JKIA to Westlands, you've seen what they've now done at Uhuru Park. Uhuru, yes, along Uhuru Park.
What have they done?
There's a section there, the section near the Laiko Regency. So they've narrowed it down now to 2 lanes on both sides.
It's,
Can you imagine what's going to happen?
I
You can imagine. Anyway, let's hear what's happening on the roads. 24 minutes to 7.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Traffic.
If you wanted to get off Mombasa Road, now is the time to do it. Because you're given the all clear from Mlolongo all the way to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. However, once you get there, we already have a bumper-to-bumper situation on the Uhuru Highway. Gives credence to what Eric was talking about a few minutes ago, whereby the constructors of this expressway from the airport to Westlands have closed off a certain part of Uhuru Highway. So this means that from 4 lanes, it's now at 2. So the traffic is going to be epic today. It would have been nice for some warnings of such, but okay. We're going to go through it the way we have to, right? So if you need to get out now while you can. But there will be some heightened levels of traffic on Uhuru Highway today, and this is all the way from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout all the way through to Westlands. There's traffic outbound on Thika Road today. It is the weekend, we understand. People are trying to leave the city to have a breather. So plan your journeys with some caution, guys, because the pockets of traffic all around, and we'll give you insights into that as we go along. Okay? Let us know also what you see. Spice of MKE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let's keep it safe this Friday morning.
Spice FM. Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Welcome to the Situation Room. If you're just joining us, this is the Kenya's biggest conversation. It's also live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And I can see people who are already tuned in. Real Elliot says, "Good morning, team." The Situation Room is tuned in from Machakos County. Morik Vincent Onyaboke says he's in JKIA. Bede Asli, confirmed in, where is this? Machakos. And Mombasa, Benson Mumo. Kakamega County, Abdul Rahman. Welcome to the show, everybody. So we're looking at all the big headlines in the papers this morning. Of course, we'll be looking into the details of all the corruption fight that's happening in the country later on. But for now, Obado and family locked up in cells for the weekend. Magistrate declines to release the Migori governor, his 4 children and business associates after being charged with stealing millions of shillings from the county.
Why?
Why did they steal, or why were they declined to
Oh,
free?
no.
Okay.
It's bail. Is the offense that they've been accused of, is it a bailable offense? And the question I'm asking is, which offense in this country is unbailable?
Said, you come on Monday, I'll review.
And he's not infringing on their rights?
No.
And the law is being followed to the letter?
Yeah. The magistrate has time. I mean, you've put your case forth for why you'd like the people released. The prosecution is putting a case of why you're opposing. I mean, the prosecution is saying why they are opposing the release on bail, which in this case the prosecution was saying it's on account of the severity of the charges and their past records. We know of a fire incident in the county offices which destroyed documents, and it happened during the investigations. This is according to the lead prosecutor, Victor Mule, who submitted a report of the money trail leading to the arrest and asked the trial magistrate, Lawrence Bogambi, to deny them bail on account of this.
So essentially what you're saying is that if they release, there may be another fire in the county offices.
According to the prosecution. Like, Your Honor, we cannot really, we have to put in measures.
We can't risk.
Essentially what you're saying is that these are the people who were involved in creating that fire. Were they really? Was there ever a case of arson brought against these individuals who are now in court?
What basically the prosecution is saying, when we were doing the investigations, this happened. So,
Yes.
Because we do not know, we still don't have, that's a DCI to investigate arson and all, because we still don't have that.
Then why bring it in?
This here is, we're investigating this particular case. This happened. There can be some correlation, Your Honor, and we really oppose this release on bail.
There can be the correlation. And, there can also be correlation that lightning is directly related to the driving of cars. But until you prove it to be so or not so, it is just something that you have put forth. Now,
remember, the magistrate has not said, no, I'm not going to release you. It just said,
actually,
I need time.
I've understood you, and that's the real thing that's actually what I'm talking about. That was yesterday. What prevents the magistrate from looking into the matter today?
It's busy. The court is
busy. How? How many cases of this? No. How many cases of this nature does he have before him?
How many anti-corruption cases does the anti-corruption magistrate have? Many.
Of this nature?
Yes.
Which involves an entire family?
Yeah. About entire family, that's not my issue, by the way. As a magistrate, my magistrate is, I'm not looking at you, your children, these are you. No. It's a case before you. It has its own merit and demerits.
But that's really the point.
This is one case, there's another case. So you've presented your case for releasing on bail, you've presented your case against releasing on bail. All right, so I'm going to make my decision.
If the argument I was listening to stated that, look, there is a schedule that we follow in this place, all right? First come, first serve, all right? You've come on this day. Your case will be heard on this day, all right? That bit I get. But that's not what's being presented. All manner of reasons. That's why I'm asking now.
What other reasons are you hearing, CT?
The reasons that I'm hearing are these people, we were once investigating a case in the same county, and around the time we're investigating this case, the offices burnt down. And a lot of information, especially regarding financial matters, were lost. So, because this happened, we cannot now release these people on bail.
Sure,
No, CT. There's a difference. In every case, when there's an application for bail by the defense, there's a counter by the prosecution.
I should expect so.
Or either the prosecution then just says, we have no issue, you can release the person. All right? So there's a case brought forth by both sides. And then the magistrate or the judge will decide. So the judge has not determined that, yes, because of what Mr. Mule you have presented, I'm denying them bail. No. The magistrate has just said,
I am questioning why can he not decide? He didn't decide yesterday. Why can't he
Discretion.
decide today? Why must he
it is not
decide
the
on
first
Monday?
time. It's not the first time that this happens. Discretion.
I'm
all right. So
questioning.
you've presented all this. I need to look at the evidence.
And
that
you
presented.
require the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday you'll be able to give.
Yeah, because there are a number of other things on his plate, right? So he says that,
And these things are what exactly?
And they are weighty
it's
matters
not the only
that will be
case that
presented.
he has on his desk.
But I would hope not. I would hope
You'd
not
hope what?
that it isn't
not
the only case he has.
Yeah, there are
Otherwise,
things that would have come.
there-
There are things that would have come before this case. There are things that were also pending. Some kind of judgment, whether it were bail judgment, other things that they.
Then
had
why
to
did
deal
they have
with.
to arrest them on that day? Why didn't they arrest them on Monday?
Well, at the time where they released.
What do you mean?
Well, since we're talking time and when it is appropriate, why didn't you just arrest them on Monday then?
And then you would have had time to give them bail by Thursday, say.
Yes.
You
Or
see,
why did you arrest them on Friday?
The
and
arresting,
follow the norm that we've seen in
the
so many of these
arresting
arrests.
agency is not the one that determines bail. All right, and those two don't control one another.
Eric, what happens is all
The
these
ODPP
agencies,
cannot order the magistrate
Eric.
that now I need to understand your calendar so that I know when to arrest the
No, he
suspect.
can't. But these agencies work together. They do.
They do, but not determining one another's calendar. That's the reason why you hear the prosecution, for example, saying, hey, this case has taken so long. It's not because it is because the judiciary is working with its own calendar based on its own workload. And it's looking at, all right, so this is the workload. This is what you've brought before me. This is my workload. Now, you investigators, you can even ask you, so why didn't you started investigating this thing 2 years ago. Why didn't you bring the case last year when I was last busy?
That is a very good question.
You've just
Because
given city fodder for his argument.
No, that's very, that
and
is
the
an excellent
EACC
question.
will say, I had not finished my investigations. Same.
And why didn't the person who brought in the issue of the fire tell us that upon looking at or discussing or investigating this matter of the fire that happened then, we found that... No,
that is where now the magistrate, when the magistrate is making that decision, they'll look at it on that merit. All right, I see that you're talking about fire, but I see no reason. I see nothing linking these people to the fire, and therefore I find that not sufficient ground to deny them bail. Bail is granted. Or the magistrate may look and say, hey, I have looked and I have heard and I have interrogated all the evidence that you presented before me, and I feel that, yes, these people should be denied bail. That is the decision that the magistrate will make independently.
Okay, so
okay.
shall we look at another case?
Yes.
It seems that that's all it's raining cases, but I know we're going to look at that in some more detail. But just a small detail now of the Kilimani shooting that took place last weekend or so. 2 more guns were recovered from the Nairobi office of Chris Philip Okoh Bure, a suspect in last week's Kilimani killing. A pistol and shotgun were recovered from a safe in the office of a Centu Plaza on Galana Road, Centeo Plaza, during a raid on the premises on Tuesday evening, according to police. He's the director of the Glowjet International, a firm said to be involved in the transportation of valuables, including gold. It is at the company offices that the weapons were seized. They've written to the Firearms Licensing Board seeking to know whether the guns are licensed or not. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations boss, George Kinoti, termed the seizure shocking. The pistol used in killing Kevin Omwenga in his house on August 21st was recovered from the same office. Obura and his bodyguard Robert Okoh were under investigation over the fatal shooting of their partner Omwenga, who was shot dead in unclear circumstances in his bedroom at an apartment on Galana Road. He was with Okoh, who had the killer weapon that belongs to Obure. A post-mortem revealed that Omwenga was hit in the heart. Although Okoh claims the shooting was accidental, the police are investigating claims Omwenga had fallen out with Obure over a deal gone bad. But it's interesting here that, again, there's a request from the Firearms Licensing Board to really find out what is going on here. That report is still not out. We looked at details of that on Monday, Tuesday. That is still not out in terms of having given an answer about the licensing of such firearms across the country, because it does seem that everybody can go in and get one. CT, if you wanted a gun today, it probably wouldn't be too difficult to get it.
I highly doubt it, but let's go with the flow.
Yeah. It wouldn't be difficult, right?
It would be very difficult.
So now, this is what they're trying to find out. Why does it seem so easy? And then even beyond the request, they found that there's still more firearms within the same premises.
I don't understand why the police are saying they're shocked.
Neither do I. I don't know why they would be so
It
shocked.
was shocking.
Why was it a shocking seizure?
They are involved in the processes of issuing these licenses,
Yeah.
or these permissions to own, buy, use guns. So, and by the way, in this country, every person who owns a gun is known. They may not particularly know how many guns you have. That is, if you haven't taken through the process. But you're known.
But you're known.
You're known.
At 13 minutes to 7, let's take a break. But as we go into the break, remind you about the portal by the Kenya Ports Authority. This is an information portal called Captain Cargo, where you can go and learn the port operations. Today, what do you want to look at?
Well, quite a number of things to look at. But again, let's look at the customer service charter and looking at how you will be served. There had been just looking at some information, there had been previous, issues about how you can get information that you needed from the Port Authority and those services. But according to Captain Cargo, they're making it very clear that you will be able to get access to information at any time that you need it. So now looking at standards for communication, their general standards, number one, say that they will give you 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week port services, except on the 1st of May, Labor Day, and the 25th of December, Christmas Day. And they'll wear name badges for you to identify them. They'll provide you with services within a safe working environment, so you don't have anything to worry about when it concerns that. We'll also look at standards for port operations, 100% availability of aids to navigation, pilotage, tug and mooring services within 30 minutes discharge and loading within 1 hour of mooring the container vessel, general cargo vessel, or car carrier. So you can be assured that whatever you need, you will get. And Captain Cargo assures you of that.
Right. And you can get all this information on www.kpa.co.ke/Captain Cargo.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
We will look deeply into the fight against corruption and the arrests. So there's the arrest ordered for Aisha Jumwa, the Malindi MP, arrest ordered for former KPA boss, Engineer Manduku. There's arrests, of course, and we've seen an arraignment in court of Governor Obado, his family and business associates, and others.
Mm-hmm.
So that will make some interesting fodder. Looking at other headlines.
Since we're still talking about scandal, KEMSA bosses washed their hands over the COVID scandal. And they blame PS Mochache. The names and face of officials who have presided over multi-billion shillings COVID-19 scandals have started coming to light as investigations gather steam. Yesterday, bosses at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, where the bulk of irregular procurement of supplies happened, placed Health Principal Secretary Susan Mochache at the center of the scams. The KEMSA managers, led by Board Chairman Kembi Gitura, said Ms. Mochache ordered the agency to exclusively procure COVID-19 supplies from specific companies at set prices. Appearing before the National Assembly's Health Committee over alleged loss of billions of shillings, the management absolved itself from any procurement irregularity, saying they took orders from Ms. Mochache. Mr. Gitura said the committee told the committee that the agency received a letter in April from the PS with details on how to go about the procurement. He told the team, chaired by Ms. Sabina Shege, that the letter from the PS had instructions on what to buy, where, and at what cost. A move, he said, was not procedural at the medical agency, is not supposed to be directed on what to do by the ministry. We received a letter from the Ministry of Health containing a list where we would procure from, the prices and the quantity. I can vouch on the quality of PPEs we procured, according to Mr. Gitura. He did admit, however, that although the directive by the PS was irregular, it does not amount to an illegality of the procurement of PPEs done by KEMSA. In the letter dated April 15th, addressed to suspended CEO John Njeri, which the nation saw, Ms. Mochache said the World Bank had identified and approved various items to be procured. It's also interesting that the board chairman said and urged Kenyans to stop speculations and allow the investigations to conclude. So
This
it's
one is
not
gonna
us,
be interesting.
it's them. It's not us.
This
we
is
were told
gonna
what to
be
do. We were
interesting.
told where to buy. We were told how much.
Is
We just
KEMSA
executed.
a part of...
The ministry.
No.
Yep.
Well, before, based on what he said, they would not regularly get orders.
Instructions like
or
those.
instructions like this. How to
They have
buy,
some-
what to
some
buy.
sense
They have
of
some kind
autonomy.
of
I mean, there's a board.
independence, right? So it seemed irregular at the moment, but, taking into consideration that, COVID, they did what they were told.
You see, you've got to remember that this money is coming from the government to buy equipment and other supplies and medicine for the fight against COVID-19.
Specifically.
Right?
Yeah.
So the purchaser here is government. And so therefore,
And principal secretary is definitely government.
is
Yes.
definitely government.
So when government writes to you,
And tells you to do something, you do it.
not necessarily.
This one they did now. That's why they're saying it's not their fault.
Eric has mentioned something that is actually clear here. You see, it comes as a board. The moment you have a board, that tells you have some independence.
So they could have said no to this letter dated
They could have
April-
said no.
dated April 15th that
Yes.
told them what to buy, where to buy it from, at what cost to buy it. They could have said, hold on, this is
Yes.
irregular. Because he did note and say that we noted with some irregularity that this is not the way we normally do things.
I would like to see a copy of that letter personally.
But because I think it was entered into the proceedings yesterday, but because of, we just assumed that, it was COVID
It's an
and needed to
emergency,
be
it's
done. It was an
emergency
emergency.
times,
We're
and
just
this is
going to
what's
go ahead
happening.
with what the ministry says. Which is why they're saying the spotlight then has been turned on PS Mochache.
It may, but that board is not getting away.
They can't absolve themselves of any kind of responsibility here.
No. You may actually find that the pawn in this whole thing was actually the MD or the CEO. Because he clearly takes instructions from the board. Clearly. MDs do. Now, who does the board take instructions from other than from themselves? Let it unfold.
Let it unfold. Remember, the government is represented in this board as well.
By the way,
It's actually government board.
they are actually represented quite comprehensively. It's not
And
just
the
that the
person
one
who
person.
sits on this board must be the PS or the alternate.
Yes.
This one. Let it unfold. Let's hear what's happening. Hey. We shall talk about the migration also in the next hour. There's this interesting story that's been published on page 26 of the Standard about a charismatic bishop who angered the faithful when he chose to marry a 35-year-old bride 4 years after the death of his first wife. And this is the founding Archbishop of the Church of God of East Africa, Byram Ahaenda Makoha. Who was a man loved and hated in equal measure during his tumultuous reign as the head of the church for the last 50 years. He took over the mantle of the leadership of this church, which was founded in 1905 after the exit of the white missionaries. Now, Dr. Makoha died last week. No, August 25th, 3 days ago, in Nairobi, where he was undergoing treatment. So here's the issue. The wife is now telling the story of what happened. The choice of a 35-year-old bride angered the faithful, including some pastors who attempted to stop the wedding on grounds that the wife-to-be was young for him. They preferred an elderly woman, arguing that the bride was the age of his grandchildren. But the man said, Shauri yenu, the wedding went on. It was not open to the public. Members of the media were also not afforded an opportunity to record the memorable event.
How old is the guy?
He has just died at the age of 88.
Oh.
And the wedding was in 2014,
Are we allowed
6
to
years ago.
speculate as to the cause of his death?
No. Yeah. So the wife was 35 at the point. Now, so the man was also embroiled in several other issues here in terms of management and leadership of the church, how he was disposing of pieces of land owned by the church in Makadara in Nairobi. Even at Buruburu Church, there was controversy pitting Makoha and the flock, with the matter ending in court. Infuriated church members went a notch higher and welded doors leading to the pastor's office. That's not all. He was also embroiled in a land feud with Mureithi Mwenje, the son of ex-Embakasi MP, the late David Mwenje, who had given the church a portion of land in 2004. However, the family has maintained that Makoha was only concerned about instilling sanity to members of the church who were going astray.
Okay.
Yep.
Strong thing, Joe.
You talk about somebody like that who has passed on and leading a church as vast as this, because they're talking about the kind of following that this church has. He has a following of over 1 million followers in the region. Majority of them in western parts of Kenya.
What is certain to me is that this church didn't have a succession plan. You're not supposed to down the job.
No?
No.
Who said?
I am saying
That was their succession.
I am saying that when you have an organization such as this, any organization, you grow.
Or at least groom somebody and get
Yes.
to a point
Not
where
even,
it's very clear
even others.
that
And
this
then,
is the heir apparent or the crown prince.
or these are the crown princes or princesses, so that at least, because the church must have a management team.
True.
But it clearly inside churches, he is the management team.
He is the management team. Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay, so we still have that issue on Uhuru Highway this morning, and traffic is moving extremely slowly. Looking at other parts, though, of the city, and we see that coming off of Thika Road today, not as fast as you'd like it to be. Getting into the CBD might take you a minute, but hopefully it will not be too crazy. Okay, so coming off of Langata Road, coming into the city, a bit slow. A slight accident there as you then head towards Bagathi Way. Coming off of Bagathi Way, though, however, you should be all right as you're trying to get either to Valley Road or down towards Ngong Road, so not too crazy there. Mombasa Road doing very well today, as we have seen. Uhuru Highway is where we're going to see the major issue today looking into the city. In a bit, we'll take a look at what it looks like outside of the NMA, headed towards Limuru, and then out towards Naivasha and Nakuru, and then also on the other side of things at the coast. We'll let you know what that looks like in a short while. Do also let us know what you see. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Spice FM this morning. Nairobi 94.4, Malindi, how are you? 97.7, in Njeri 90.9, Eldoret 96.7, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa, or wherever you are tuning in from through social media platforms, Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Heron Stucker says, CT, he's listening in from Migori and is telling you, come through. I don't know what it means, Heron Stuckers.
I'm sure he'll expound on it.
Come through near the camera.
Maybe he has just begun his conversation, and I'm sure
He'll finish.
It get clearer.
All right. Kenyan Lugari boy is listening in from Imara Daima and following at 40 Jesus Busia.
Read it as it's written.
Yeah, at 40 Jesus Busia. This is Rash Bashir Were wa Busia. Kahumboro wa Ishamara is listening in from Ishamara in Mukurene. Ever heard of Ishamara?
Is that Njeri?
Ishamara, yes, is in Mukurene. Mukurene is in Njeri County.
Pronounced Njeri.
Njeri County. Yeah. So remind us today's Proverb City.
Yes, I will. A
Tafadhali.
man who marries a beautiful woman and a farmer who grows corn by the roadside have the same problem.
I wonder what the problem might be. I mean, if just a beautiful woman and corn. I mean, I don't
By the roadside.
by the roadside. I mean, it's
Corn-
not. It's
corn
not like
is-
anybody would steal.
No.
It's not like anybody would steal corn if you just found it by the
They
roadside.
may, but they may want to.
They may just admire it.
But they may want to.
They may even just go and check whether it's right. It's fully grown.
It's fodder for passerbys. It's fodder for cattle. It's fodder for depending on the growth of that particular maize plant.
Yeah.
Yes, but when it's visible to many, yes, it is exposed to many.
Okay.
Now consider what that brings about.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the twin migration, shall we? There's a twin migration that happens every year around the same time in this country.
And only one seems to actually,
Only one has gotten the limelight.
one has gotten the, limelight is a good word, but I was thinking of a more momentous word. Gravitas. Yes. The wildebeest migration.
Yeah.
Yes. The world over. You talk about the wildebeest migration, it is a wonder. Was it UNESCO? Who is it who decides whether it becomes another wonder of the world?
Yeah, it's the UNESCO Heritage Council.
Yes, yes. And the wildebeest, I think, migration is heading in that direction, if I'm not wrong. But there are others we don't talk of. For instance, most people have no clue that along the shores of Malindi, we actually have whales. They also migrate and come to our waters. Whales.
All the way from the Antarctica.
And Antarctica is far away and also very cold. But they come this way.
They come to mate.
Yes. There's a third one that isn't mentioned very much. Flamingos. Flamingos also migrate. They move from one part of the lake to the other. Now, but it's the...
One part of the lake or one lake?
No, one part of the lake. You find them.
So from that end of the lake to this other end of
No. One lake to another.
Okay.
Yes. As in other lake, one
From lake
lakes.
A to lake B.
Yes, more than one lake. Yes.
Really? They're going to migrate from this side of the lake to this
One
side
part of the lake.
You know, this, my friend,
Eric.
he's introduced new meaning to the word migration. Meaning, if I take a walk, let's say from here to where Eric is sitting, I have migrated, yes.
He's saying they migrate from one part of the lake to the other, and I'm asking, one part of the lake to the other or a different lake?
And I
No,
said
one
yes.
part of the lake.
And Eric, could you just not surmise that what I meant was one lake
Why
to
should he when he
another
can? That's
lake?
difficult. I
I
mean,
can ask you. You're right here.
Ask-
Anyway,
ask and
so
answer.
this is another migration, the flamingos.
Yes.
Where are they migrating from and to this time of the
Usually,
year?
you will find flamingos like Elementaita. Most people don't even think this, but you do. You also find them deep into the Rift Valley. You find them in Lake Baringo as well. Yes, Lake Bogoria, more so. But Lake Nakuru was mostly known for their migration. And yet, the truth of the matter is that Lake Bogoria shares a very sizable portion of those flamingos with Lake Nakuru. But like now in this season, they have migrated from Lake Bogoria. They are now in Lake Nakuru. That's where you're likely to find them in abundance.
In abundance.
Yes.
All right. And then they breed in Elementaita. What happens in
I
Elementaita? Because
honestly-
Elementaita is actually even one of those protected areas because of the flamingos.
I honestly do not know what they actually do in Elementaita. It's like asking me, do I know what they do in Lake Bogoria? What I do know is this.
They go to school in Bogoria. They are
Yes.
born in
Elementaita is
Elementaita.
the university. Yes.
good Lord.
What I do know is this, that there are specific spots that animals favor for breeding. Remember, like we mentioned, that one of the things that people do not know is that the Nairobi National Park has proved over time to be a very good breeding ground for rhinos.
Yeah.
Now, it's not known, but it's just the truth. So these birds will choose certain places where they go to breed. And then they may also choose another place to deliver their young.
Yeah.
Yes. And usually when you see pictures of flamingos, you can tell where they're flamingos and they're also chicks, as in young flamingos. I know it's Friday, Eric.
Eric, thank you for the rider. Because Eric,
No, after that migration thing, I'm not going to be caught in that thing again. No.
okay, because
But the thing that actually caught my attention, the whales. You know, these are massive, beautiful animals, majestic. Now, just the sighting of them, to me, would be wonderful. And probably I'm saying this because I grew up in Nakuru. Good portion of my, so I saw flamingoes from a very early age. So for me, there's no big.
There's nothing major about flamingos.
A wildebeest just looks like a small,
mean,
a small buffalo. So it's again nothing big there.
Now there's a whale.
Whale,
The humpback whale, which is several tons heavy.
that thing is big.
And then they come to mate and breed
Yes.
along the shores of Kenya,
Yes.
especially in Kilifi, Watamu specifically.
Yes.
And, you know, the young one is actually born several hundred kilograms heavy. And you go to spot them. And this is, it's an interesting, I must confess that I participated in one such excursion last year from Hemingway's Watamu. And going into the deep sea. Now, the sad part is that this is the time when the seas are roughest.
They're choppy.
Oh, my goodness. So you are not really sure that you are even going to be able to depart on this
So you
expedition
don't even
every morning.
You clearly don't have sea legs, but carry on. Yes.
So actually, the crew will tell you, no, it's too rough, it's going to rain, so we cannot leave. So you have to sit there just waiting and hoping that, you know, the weather clears and looking at the weather forecast for the day and looking what's the best time to go. So then you head out onto the sea and then this thing's just...
Okay, yes, question. You can't see them at night.
they're not going to take you out on the
Just
open
asking.
sea at night.
Because clearly, I'm sure they sleep at some point, I think. But what I do know for a fact, the question I'm asking is, yes, the sea is never rough the entire day. No, it never is. There are times an aberration occurs and it's rough when it shouldn't be. But tell me, but did you sight one? That's really what I'm interested in.
Yes.
Usually
Yes.
you can sight whole herds at a time. So it's
We actually
great.
started one, and this one we didn't see with the young one, but another team that had gone earlier had actually seen one with the newborn.
So
Heavy.
the young whale, is it a pup? Is born and
It's a calf.
It's a calf.
It's a calf, yes.
Okay, like cow. Okay, and it can swim immediately.
Immediately.
Okay, so good.
That's all they do. Immediately.
it's born in
The
the
interesting
water.
bit about this is for some time, this was not happening. They were not able to migrate all the way just because of the whaling. Because people would go into many of these deep seas and hunt them, fish,
Kill them.
kill them.
Yes.
So with the introduction of the ban on whaling, now they were able to start venturing further and further, and they started coming back all the way into the coast of the East Africa. Initially, they would just leave Antarctica and not go far. Now they're venturing all the way, and this is the best environment for them along Watamu and Malindi. It's the best environment for them. They come here, they get their young ones here, and then they feed them for a while, and then they head back.
So what's good for the whale must be good for tourists, and I'm talking about local tourists here.
Local tourists
Because
as well.
I would really like to see a whale.
Yeah. The Kenya Tourism Board and the Tourism CS, Najib Balala, have actually embarked on this, branding this the twin migration. Remember, they were at the Masai Mara with Eliud Kipchoge the other day, trying to encourage people come and see this wonderful event that takes place every year. And then they also moved down into the coast at Watamu to also promote the same, saying, if we can sell this as a package, a twin migration, find ways that you have establishment that can sell this. Take someone to Masai Mara, see that, and then take them down to Watamu, take them down into the deep sea, see the whales. How wonderful would that be?
It would be. The only problem is that they are found in the sea. There are many people who don't like
Who will have
comfortable
issues,
with the water.
especially
this endless
because
water.
you see, this is the time for the Kusi rains, the monsoon. So really, the ocean is not at its best at this point.
No, it isn't. You couldn't say it's behaving at its best, but just the normal fear that people have for endless. No. Water.
just
Then
water.
they get a small river you can cross with a step. They get, but this one where you cannot see the end of it, it's a bit scary.
Yeah.
And now that you have
Beautiful.
stories of typhoons and hurricanes, There's one called Laura that is causing havoc in Louisiana. 6 people dead as we speak.
Already.
Of the 6, 2 were killed by trees that fell on them.
Man.
And of tragedy. I mean, you know, when you hear of a young person dying, it's considered even more tragic. 14-year-old among the people who are dead.
My goodness.
So when you have stories of what Mother Nature does with water, and then someone tells you they want you not just to sit and look at the water, but to venture inside the water.
Beautiful experience.
Now that, yes.
But it takes something just to get used to it.
It does.
It's like when you have those snake parks where they put an entire python on your neck and you're holding it and you're thinking, all right, so what's going to happen here?
Actually, I would prefer to look at it around somebody else's neck.
Yeah?
It's better that way.
Until it's put on your neck and then you start feeling the muscles and it starts adjusting and you're thinking, is what?
Eric, you're clearly adventurous.
Like the folks in, it's like you do the lion walk in Mauritius and Madagascar, and then a few days
Lion
later-
walk.
Yeah.
Explain.
With the albino lions.
Explain.
It's fantastic.
Meaning full-grown lion.
Yes.
And you walk with a lion.
Yes.
It's also happening somewhere here. Is
But unfortunately,
is it
just the
Zambia
day
or
of-
Malawi where they also do the same?
Yeah. And unfortunately, a few days ago, you may like this though, but the lions unfortunately killed one of their
In Limpopo.
Handlers.
There's one. They had gone for a walk.
Yeah,
Yes, they're going for a walk and they were female and they started playing and then they decided to play with him, the same game. Game didn't go down very well for them,
Unfortunately,
yes.
no.
But the story goes, those 2 lions had escaped from the enclosure they were in not too long ago and had also killed someone.
So they have a history.
These lions should not have
And
been
then
allowed to be
handlers
going
should-
for this.
yeah,
Yes,
they
shouldn't
should-
have
they
that.
had already killed someone.
Yeah. The ones that you walk with though in Madagascar and Mauritius are actually quite tame. It'll put
A
some hair-
lion is tame.
It'll put some hair on your chest to do it. That's for sure. But I mean, it's
They do that same kind of thing.
Is it
walking with
not
lions
just
and
good
leopards.
enough to look at the lion when it's behind some enclosure?
why when you
Or
can
if
walk
I
with-
really must see it, would it not be better if I'm in some massive
Yeah,
vehicle,
you're in a vehicle and you-
and I can see it? Surely, must I walk next to it? Or must I put a snake around my neck, especially a big snake like a python,
Yeah.
Ask Eric.
whose behavior we all know?
And you don't know what exactly maybe it's
It
just
could begin to constrict.
No, that snake
and it
can
gets annoyed.
No, that snake and its muscles, let the muscles stay on the snake, not on my neck. As for the lion, let it just do what it does best. No.
It's 16 minutes past 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation this easy Friday, the 28th of August. Keep it right here because we are looking at what's happening around the country, what's happening around the world, the big events that are shaping our world today, what we're discussing today. And also in the 8 o'clock hour, we'll be speaking to the MD of the Kenya Bureau of Standards. And this is Lieutenant Colonel, retired Lieutenant Colonel Njeri. He'll be telling us what they have been doing. We know that there's issues with face masks, there's issues with aflatoxin. All these things that we talk about, we always go back to KEBS. Had KEBS certified this? Had KEBS allowed this to happen? So keep it right here for that conversation. For now, Nduh will tell us whether it's going to rain in Watamu today. So you can go and watch the whales. Good morning.
The weather with
Will
Spice
not rain
FM.
today. It's at 24 degrees and pleasant weather actually in Watamu. Let's look at Nairobi there, where it's 14 degrees and partly cloudy. We see highs of 24 and lows of 12 today, and a chance of showers in Nairobi, though. There's also a chance of showers in Njeri later, with highs of 22, currently at 14 degrees and mostly cloudy. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru as well, highs of 23 and lows of 12, with a sprinkle in the forecast. Clear skies in Eldoret at 12 degrees. Thunderstorms expected later with highs of 20. It's 19 degrees and partly cloudy in Kisumu, and it's going to be a wet weekend with highs of 27 today. 24 will be the high in Kakamega, currently at 17 degrees and partly cloudy conditions. And in Mombasa, it's 23 degrees and mostly cloudy, and no rain in the forecast here. Neither is there rain in the forecast for Malindi. It's currently at 24 degrees and partly cloudy. Kampala is partly cloudy as well at 18, highs of 26, with thunderstorms expected throughout the weekend, well into Tuesday. Dar es Salaam is foggy today. It's going to be that way for most parts of this Friday. 22 degrees currently, going to highs of 30 and lows of 21. Let's look into Joburg. We're at 10 degrees. It's clear skies. It'll go to a high of 23, bringing in the summer months in South Africa. And for now, Lagos, 25 degrees, clear skies. We'll see highs of 29 and lows of 23.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Welcome to the Situation Room. If you're just joining us, we are live streaming as well on www.spicefm.co.ke. And keep it right here for more conversations. Corruption. All right. Just this week, the DPP has ordered the arrest and prosecution of Migori Governor Okoh, his 4 children, and some business persons in Migori County, who are basically just members of a family, right? And this is Mama Pamela and her children. Those ones went to court yesterday. They will spend the weekend in police cells at the ESCC, and then they'll be back and hear whether they can be released on bail. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we have the former Kenya Ports Authority boss, and this is Engineer Daniel Manduku, who's accused of impropriety in the award of 244.8 million shillings tender. Yesterday, he presented himself to the DCI after hearing the DPP saying, this man should be arrested, right? KPA official Juma Fadhili Chigulu was seized from his office at the port of Mombasa. Police said that Chigulu would be brought to Nairobi, where he's expected to take a plea over corruption-related charges. And then we also now have Malindi MP Aisha Jumwa, who's wanted by detectives in connection with the theft of 20 million shillings CDF money. The DCI detectives yesterday arrested 6 Malindi CDF officers shortly after the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji, approved the prosecution. Mike Moya, the head of Financial Crime Investigation Unit, said his team had been investigating alleged flawed procurement for the construction of the Malindi Education Office that cost the CDF 20 million shillings. He says most of the stolen funds were allegedly wired to personal accounts of Jumwa and her close relatives. 4 of the 5 bidders were close relatives of the MP, including her children. The Tender Evaluation Committee did not do due diligence in awarding the tenders. The 5 applicants, 4 of them are related to the MP, her children, and her sister. After payments were made, most of the money was wired back to Jumwa's accounts. He Kenya, he.
I'm telling you.
He Kenya, he.
There was this song that was sung by a choir, and the words I can't remember. Kenya yetu ni nchi ya ajabu. Nduh, that was for you.
Okay, thank you.
You need to hear me sing. I was
you
off
go.
key,
No,
off
You
everything.
were
on the
completely
side.
on key.
No,
In fact,
you
I think
just
you
throw
were on
it
B
in there
major.
when I wasn't expecting it, City.
Okay, let's-
On B minor.
Is that what it was?
I don't know. I have no clue. So if you look at this and how the screws are tightening on the war against corruption, before we start bringing in the issue of, it's only our side that is being arrested, this one is not
that's gonna
featuring
come.
this week.
Oh, that's coming.
It's going to come at some point, but so far it hasn't, okay? So if you look at how the investigators are working with the DPP, and the DPP says, I received this file not yesterday and ordered the prosecution today. Received the file a couple of weeks back, appointed a team, told the team, review the evidence. Go through this evidence, which includes senior prosecutors. Go through the evidence and tell me whether there's sufficient evidence to sustain a case in court. Only then shall I authorize prosecution. And in all these cases, the DPP is saying, yes, my team has come and told me there is sufficient evidence. And this is what we have found. We have found that the MP for Malindi, through the NGC, she received money from people who had been contracted to do some work by the CDF. These people happen to be her relatives. We have found evidence that the governor of Migori received some benefit amounting to 73 million shillings from people who had been contracted to work in the county assembly, in the county government of Migori. The people who benefited are direct relatives of Mr. Obado. Oh, in fact, they are his children.
What is of interest, though, since we are looking at the anatomy of this, if you look at the Kenya Ports Authority, a huge institution that mints oodles and oodles of billions of shillings for the country, it has a really interesting history. Okay, page 2 of the Standard begins the history in 1979. Okay, and it says, since 1979, the plum job of KPMD has been held by 14 men and 1 woman. Out of these, 7 were sacked, 3 forced to resign, while 4 completed their terms. Dr. Manduku's trouble tenure ended in less than 2 years. But the person who takes the cup for the shortest time is a gentleman by the name of Joseph Munene. Yes, he was the shortest. He was forced to resign after 3 months.
3 months out.
3 months.
And what are the issues?
The details are not given, but if you look at what I read earlier on, that some of them were sacked, some were forced out, 3 months, the contract wasn't for 3 months. So this was, I think, the period when he was still, what's that thing called? Where?
On probation.
Probation.
That one. Okay, but what they do is they do mention names of people who completed their terms. And these are John Mturi, Philip Okundi, John Gituma, and Brown Ondego. 4. They completed their terms.
It's important to note that the only woman of those 14 is actually the daughter of John Mturi.
Yes.
She did not complete her term.
No, she resigned. See, when you talk about not completing, others were given the option.
Was sacked.
Yes, thank you very
Given
much,
the option
Eric.
of
Others
leaving
were
by force.
forced to resign.
She resigned.
Forced to resign.
It makes you wonder, what is it that happens at the helms of some of these parastatals, especially the ones which are clearly lucrative?
Yep. I think this is where the big merchants of corruption really operate, right? So you find yourself getting this lucrative job, and you are the MD of this big institution called the Kenya Ports Authority, and even the others, like the one we'll be talking to in the next hour, the Kenya Bureau of Standards. How much money is involved in these organizations?
Yes. How much money passes through this organization?
Yes.
And remember, it's a monopoly. So it isn't as though you can say, they had competition. The competition is with themselves.
Themselves and
Yes,
them.
and it's a service that is needed. And it's a service that doesn't just service the needs of Kenyans, no, but of our neighbors, far and wide.
And more importantly, it's not an organization that only receives money from the government.
No.
It's an organization that generates revenue.
And even gives revenue to the government.
So KPA generates revenue because people pay. Kenya Ports Authority, that's it. Kenya Pipeline generates revenue. Kenya Bureau of Standards generates revenue. All this because there is money, and it's a substantial amount of money because you're the only one offering this service.
And if you look at the history of these institutions that you mentioned, you will find that there's always troubled waters. They always exist. Something that is happening, someone moving out, someone moving in. What is the oddity is if someone actually stays there for a while. That's odd. But someone coming for a short stint and then leaving. And usually it's amidst a dust of accusations of corruption. It's never they left after the term ended. Essentially, they were forced out because of issues that arose.
I'm looking at this now from the point of prosecution, whereby, we talked about this earlier in this year, where we said this would be the year. It's the times that we are going into where we're going to see that there are going to be many more arrests. There's going to be a lot more action when it comes to this war against corruption, when it comes to this war against mismanagement of funds and thievery of public funds, right? So what it shows to me is that there's a lot of work going on in the background, because very unlikely that there's somebody sit and say, well, okay, coming out of the office of the DPP, coming out of the, criminal investigations department. Can you imagine what it is in terms of caseload or workload when they have a hint of this and then they begin the investigations? By the time that communication is coming out of the office of the DPP, sufficient work has been done to say we have just cause for the arrest of such individuals, going beyond just allegations. We have enough evidence to point towards this. So there's a lot of work that's going on, whereas it would have been seen in the past that, all right, we know there's corruption, nobody's doing the due diligence to go and find out if this is actually going on. So just like we said before, has been the prediction, or clearly as the reality, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's likely to be much more that will be uncovered. And I would say that there would be a lot more that's going to be eyebrow raising in terms of effects for Kenyans to realize and say, wow, this is the kind of money that has been stolen regularly over years. And then now people are being brought to book.
Ask yourself this question. When you look at these stories, especially today's stories, when we are spoiled for choice, if you're talking about corruption and stories around it, you want to ask, are there any institutions, are there any parastatals that do not have such issues?
Where this bug has not bitten.
Yes, I asked a question. And then you ask yourself, are there any members of parliament who have this Constitutions Development Fund at their behest, who have not tinkered, played around with it? Do you have governors who have not treated these monies that are given to them for their people as their own and done with it as they see fit? Are there any? Because that is the question that will be asked. As more of these people get arrested or are brought to explain how it is that the monies that were should we say, left in their responsibility did not meet the needs that they were intended for, that question will be asked over and over. And the ones who remain and who are not brought to book, the question will be, what is it that they have done that has enabled them to stay there? But here I am going to attempt at this role of being a prophet. There will be very few. Those who you can look at, I'm talking about governors. I'm talking about MPs. Who you can say, these ones don't seem to have been tainted. The numbers, I think, will be few.
So you're telling me that all governors and MPs are just sitting with their fingers crossed, that let the investigator just pass me and go to the next house?
No,
I finish my tenure and I'll be free.
I
because
think there's a lot of hamster
what are we
going
to go around 290?
Right no.
290 MPs, 47 governors. Hey,
No,
some of them are
serving. No, those who've had their hand
in a
the
population
cookie.
of 47 million, there are very few.
There are very few who are
But
squeaky
how many
clean.
investigators do we have?
There are very few who are squeaky clean. But I do think that those who may have had their hand in the proverbial cookie jar right now are either, number one, sweating or finding ways to cover their tracks. That one. Because, look, in 1 week, what have we seen?
Yep.
In 1 week, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then let's even leave COVID and cancer aside, right? These are the things that we have seen now.
Yeah.
In 1 week. It shows you that there's some work that's being done. So anybody right now who knows what they have done are probably either sitting thinking, okay, trying to cover your tracks, number two, or looking at the possibility of offering yourself up in terms of, look, this may have happened when I was sitting in a position, and let me just tell you, should they come, my defense is ready. I don't think people are sitting pretty and saying, they won't get me. No. I think this is enough to put some sweat on the back of the necks.
So they could be sweating, but their biggest prayer is, I'm hoping that
it'll pass me by.
It'll pass me by. That I'll not be caught by the time I finish my term. I'll go
be done,
home,
I'll
I'll rest easy, and maybe a future governor is on who will be caught over something. Right? Hey.
That falls in the realm of wishful thinking.
Oh, yes. One can only hope and dream. 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads this Friday morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. traffic.
Mombasa Road is actually behaving very well today. Well, okay, Mombasa Road is just stagnant. People on the road behaving very well today. We don't have much traffic, right? Then heading into the city, you get to Huru Highway and you're going to be stuck for a while, guys. If you didn't leave earlier, you're going to find the mother of all traffic jams there. It's bumper to bumper all the way from Nyayo Stadium roundabout and leads you all the way to Westlands. Part of the road has been closed off, not closed off completely, but reduced because of the work that's going on with the expressway. There's another road that's going to be closed from tomorrow. I'll give you details of that in a short while. But coming out of Westlands, now in the opposite direction, it's moving slowly. It's not bumper to bumper just yet, but it's likely to clog up right around the University Way roundabout with all the other oncoming traffic from Wayaki Way. So those are the two trouble spots that we see now. Coming out of Thika Road is not too bad either. Some outbound traffic, but nothing unbearable. Anywhere else in the city where you see that there is something that shouts out at you, let us know, please. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. For now, so far, so good.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So we're looking at the workload that the investigators have, all right, the EACC. Unless you convert an EACC and have like 200 investigators working here or so, how many do we need to go around? Look how long it has taken to investigate the matter of Okoth, Bado, and Migori. How long it takes to investigate even the KPA issue with the DCI and the EACC combined. And then we're talking about 290 MPs with their CDFs. We're talking about 47 governors, in fact, more than 47 governors, because there are some governors who only served one term and they left. And there's still investigation maybe that had commenced during their tenure. And then there's a second government in place. And then look at all the state parastatals. Start from KPA, go to Pipeline, go to NHIF, go to KEMSAG. I mean, you've not even started finishing what you are doing before then KEMSA is brought and added onto your list. And then you're told, in fact, treat this as priority.
Remember, we had the good fortune of having both the DPP and the CEO of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission in this studio.
Yep.
And the one thing that they said almost in unison was that they specifically go after high-profile cases. It's not that they don't know what's happening elsewhere. No, you have the DCI to deal with some of those things, and the DCI is everywhere in the country. But they said high profile. It was strategic, meaning people who are known, people who perhaps their decision-making process involves the lives of more people. When you talk of a governor, that's an entire county at their behest, whose livelihood depends on the decision that he and his team make. And governors are powerful people. If you're talking about a member of parliament, and you're talking about the monies given to them through the CDF, again, the decisions they make involve the lives of others. So anything that touches on them, okay, is high profile. Then you talk of parastatals. Parastatals are some of the biggest employers we have in the country. Now, anytime a case comes up, whether it's Pipeline, remember when it's like an entire school of people in Pipeline were arrested on a Friday. Wonderful, tragic Friday. Because of loads and loads of money that seemed to have found its way where it shouldn't have gone in the first place. Now, that was unique. But other parastatals have since followed. Now we've seen the CEO of KEMSA out. But the board had decided this bus, there's room to fit in others. So, under it, of course. So, enter the
Yes,
health under the bus. Let's see who else is going to be drawn under the bus. But the point is, it's high profile. You cannot ignore it. This isn't a chicken thief story.
True.
No.
How many high-profile places do we need to go to? That's what I'm telling you. There are many.
Eric,
if you look at all
Sure,
of
there are
them,
many that are
47 governors are all high-profile.
Yes, but Eric, you know, it isn't as though you want all 47 to arrive in court. No. You have a plan. You figure, fine, we have 47. which case can we actually prove?
Can you deal with now?
Yeah, and we have evidence that any judge will look at and consider to be evidence that indeed can send this person.
For you to actually do that, it means that you spend time,
Yes.
man hours, investigating.
Yes.
And that's what I'm talking about. If we don't have, I mean, the number of investigators that then we need to have at EACC, many.
We do.
So that we can say in every county we have like 100 investigators who are just pouring through information
Actually,
and seeing how do we investigate.
We don't have those numbers, so you want us to be strategic. I'm not downplaying the need for numbers.
Yeah.
In this country, there's need for more teachers. There's need for more doctors.
Police
there's need for
officers.
more police officers. There's need. That we understand. The only problem we don't have is we don't have a manpower problem, a human resource problem, because we have people who can fit in those places. The problem seems to be somewhere else, and that is a discussion for another day. What is certain is this. If a case is proved in court, it sets a precedence. So similar cases of that nature will now have a reference point. It makes the decision-making process easier.
Easier. In court.
It's court where they all end up. Yes.
But now, do you think it's affecting the governors and those who are taking up office?
Hey,
Like thinking, no, let me stop doing this.
my friend,
If it isn't, then
You really think so? CT, you really think so?
I do. I do.
So you,
I do.
because we had an investigation that had even started before the end of the first term for Dr. Evans Kidero, did it stop any governor in the second term from thinking what they were thinking?
No.
Has it stopped any governor during this time of COVID-19 from trying to play games?
No.
Absolutely. So,
No governor has been arrested with his children or wife or family members. They've been mentioned. Kiambu, there was mentioned.
Kiambu, there was arrest.
Yes. But this one is what we saw with Governor Bado is dramatic. 4 children. And then relatives. No, that one, it doesn't matter how deaf you purport to be or how blind you purport to be. This one you will hear and see. It's not something you're going to ignore. No. Because the message is sent, it's new.
I have a feeling. I hear what you're saying, City, and I think I even I believe deep down in my heart, I'd like to believe that when people are watching this, when they see a governor being paraded in through the streets and police cells with his children, that they think, wow, this is going to be big. When they see an elderly lady who's charged and told that you need to pay a fine of almost 1 billion shillings, people are going to think, wow.
I don't
No, I don't
think
wanna
they
do
meet
this.
it. I don't think they meet it with trepidation like that. I think they meet it with what must I do in the meantime before they're hot on my heels. I need to do something to be able to cover my tracks.
So to cover my tracks.
I think that's the way they meet it. Not
But is that not
quaking
a
in fear.
response?
I need to be
It is-
more clever.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. Whichever way you want to look at it, it is a response to what is currently happening. If we didn't see this going on in the public sphere in the manner in which it is, I don't think that anybody would
That
have said
thought process
whatever.
wouldn't
Wouldn't
have
even think
crossed-
about it.
They wouldn't
Wouldn't
have
even say,
crossed.
if you didn't see people being arrested, if you didn't see people actually being arraigned in court, if you didn't see them going after their properties and attaching their properties then to certain cases,
You'd
nobody
be
would.
irresponsible. You'd be very callous. You'd actually be stealing money and
You would
buying.
even say, since nothing is happening, let's steal some more.
You'd
Why
be
not?
announcing,
You know,
nimejenga nyumba hapa,
nimenunua
nimenunua
ingine.
ingine pale.
So I mean, it is eliciting response, which I think when we spoke to Twalib here and he told us this, he said, you know what, we know, and by the time we must understand, I don't think they're just investigating cases, and they also have an idea about the behavior of people who are in this kind of racket. They know certain ways in which people will behave. Behavioral, I think science comes into this in one way or another because it's a natural thing for you to do. You will react, either you will be scared or you'll do something to cover your tracks. And I think that is what is going on now. Nobody's sitting and saying, I also was in the same boat, but you know what? Nobody's going to come after me. It was years ago. Or you know what? I'm so smart or I'm so connected that nobody's going to be able to sniff out whatever it is that I have done. I don't think anybody's sitting pretty on their mountain of wealth that they got from stealing public funds and saying, no, it's not me. I think there's a response that is coming out of this. And if it's not fear, it's doing something to cover your tracks. So I think this is actually yielding some positive results.
What our impunity produced with time was something we call hubris. Meaning, it's an overconfidence, okay, combined with arrogance of, and
To do.
thank you, Eric. That's the term. Meaning, what do you think is going to happen to me?
Yeah.
Nothing. So long as I have the money, I have the position, I can do what I see fit. And the norm has been considered to be precisely that. Nothing can happen. Now, if, for instance, you were in Migori today and you benefited, let's say, through a contract in Migori,
Yeah.
you think you're going to be sitting pretty?
Of course you're not.
Every other contractor.
Do you think you're going to be sitting pretty? Even if what you did was,
Was
right?
clean.
Clean.
Yes, you think you're going to be sitting pretty?
You're not breathing as you normally would because of the fact that you're associated with anything in that county.
If you are in the management and you manage money, you manage administrative things
Yep.
within that county, you think you're going to be sitting and saying, oh, let's see how this goes. You most definitely are not going to be doing that.
Let's look at other examples of things that happened during the look at this case of Waluke and this, air maze, right? Anybody who did anything around that time, or before, even after, you can't tell me that they, for example, are not sitting and thinking, oh my goodness.
Other people who traded with NCPB at the point.
Absolutely. They're probably thinking it's
Eric,
only
think
going to
about
be a
it.
matter of time before they're hot on my trail as well.
Yeah.
Or what must I do to protect myself to make sure that I don't end up in the same boat as these folks? Anybody who did anything in a different parastatal, for example, whereby you purportedly supplied something and it didn't happen, or you lined your pockets with funds that were not yours. At this point, people are probably thinking, wow, it was 10 years ago, I thought I had gone scot-free, but because of what I'm seeing, the likelihood of somebody now sniffing me out is very high.
If you look at the cases, one of the things that has become clear is it's like they've been building it up. Building it up, building it up, building it up, reaching a certain, it doesn't reach a crescendo. The crescendo will be, in my opinion, when we see more arrests, really high profile, and with cases that we are told or reported to us, these are watertight. In yesterday's Business Daily, there was a story of the governor of Nairobi, one Mbuvi Sonko. He chose a different route. He had actually gone to the anti-corruption and asked for a plea bargain.
Which we were told again that is possible for you to do.
Yes,
Come, tell us.
Yes,
we'll have a
but
discussion.
you make the request,
Yeah.
and the chief magistrate said, okay, you can plea bargain. Now, the amounts which you're talking about were really, really much more than the 73 million.
Yep.
So you also need to ask the question and say, was this option also open? And if it is,
To everybody.
other people who might find themselves in this dragnet, are they also going to pursue this option? But remember, we're also told the fact that you seek it doesn't mean you're going to be given.
Yeah.
And also, it
plus-
doesn't mean that you're not going to
Suffer
pay,
some
have,
consequence.
suffer any-
No. And it also doesn't mean that you may not serve jail time.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean. It just means that it's an understanding that there'll be a reduction of this. But at the heart of it is you will return things.
Yeah.
Yes, you will. And you will probably see, if you're sitting in a position of public office, you will probably
There
see
may be
that position.
reduced jail term,
Yes.
something, but there has to be some punitive measure
There will
that
be.
goes with this.
You will not get away scot-free.
Hey, 13 minutes to 8 o'clock. Let's take a quick break and remind you about the Kenya Ports Authority information portal, Captain Cargo. So what are we looking at today?
So we're looking at standards and the customer service charter, which Captain Cargo assures everybody of. And some of these standards that we're looking at, we're going to take a look now at loading and offloading. Loading and offloading within 1 hour of the train's arrival at the ICD, that's the Inland Container Depot. And the delivery of your containers within 5 hours of when the truck comes in or when the truck leaves. Loading confirmed direct delivery cargo within 2 hours of gate in. And this is what the captain is telling us that you are assured of with these clean, seamless operational procedures. And that is one of the highest standards that they aim to keep. All of this stuff can be found captaincargo.kpa.co.ke.
up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This conversation. So you're saying that because these are high-profile cases, of course, that the ODPP and the EACC are going for, and they want to have high impact. Actually, that's what they said. High impact cases. High impact by showing that this is a governor. This is not just a governor alone, but it's somebody plus other beneficiaries of this particular issue, and they're the ones who we are arresting and we are taking to court. This is what's going to happen. The issue of plea bargaining, and this is what we're talking about. So it's reported that Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko is seeking this route of having a conversation with EACC and saying, all right, so let's have an out-of-court kind of settlement where we agree that this is what I shall come and maybe come back to court and plead guilty, and then I shall get a reduced sentence. You shall be going for a reduced sentence, and I shall return everything that you say that belongs to you. Is fine. Na muachane na mimi, please. Niishi maisha yangu. Is it going to have an immediate impact in reducing the theft that we've seen, that hubris that you're talking about? The kind of thing that where we got to a point, it was clear that people working in county governments would come to these real estate developers and say, so uko na nyumba ngapi? Nataka tatu. Let's go downstairs. Opens the boot and says, here's your money.
Hand over.
In gunny bags. And it's very clear that this is clearly stolen money. And the person does not even have any qualms. Register it in my name.
Look, let's be honest. I think that this hunger that people have for wealth or whatever it is that is beyond what you're able to get at with your regular day job, as it were, is actually quite high. I don't see that just because some of these cases have come out, people will necessarily stop. I see that it will make people become a little bit more careful. I think that people want to try and cover their tracks a little bit more. I don't see that it will kill that hunger for, ill-gotten wealth. I don't think so, that it will end it immediately. I do, however, believe that those who are coming ahead will think twice before they stick their hands in the cookie jar because of what we're seeing. And I think what would make that even, a little bit more grounded would be if we do see sentencing, some kind of action that is in one way or another injurious to your future. That will also make people think twice before they stick their hands in there.
You know what is even significant, and you are absolutely right, is when you consider the effects of impunity, because that's really what we're discussing here. What we are now seeing presents an opportunity to pause. And that's what wasn't there before. People were just steamrolling ahead.
Just go.
Yes.
Go.
You didn't even think, it didn't even occur to you.
Yeah.
And also, remember, with money came this feeling of superiority, hubris as I called it. There is a very famous study, it even won a Nobel Prize. It's called the Dunning-Kruger. It talks about, it's a psychological phenomenon about illusionary superiority. The culture that we have grown in this country has been one where when you have money, you are better. That's what it seems to speak to you. When you drive a big car, which represents you having money, you are definitely better. If you have a house which is the size of a school, then you are most definitely better. If you have all three, then goodness gracious me.
Who can touch you?
Because how then do you explain a situation where people actually very openly, very conspicuously show the consumption of their questionable gains? How? Because, again, you are superior. When you're superior, how can anything happen to you? When the people handling it are these minions, people who you can buy off and people who can do also. How? Now, what this does, it causes you to pause and to ask yourselves questions. And those who engage in such things, it also causes them to pause and ask questions that ordinarily they would not ask. Now, that is what begins this journey of unraveling and winning back the things or the values that we've been talking about. And that's why yesterday, I may sound like I'm a little harsh on the church, but when you have a situation where your voice has been dimmed by others, an alternate morality has taken core at the heart of the people who you serve and who you're supposed to lead, you are doing something very wrong. Your voice should be the loudest, and it must be done that is heard above every other voice. If it isn't,
There's a problem.
We have a huge problem. Because you can tell where people are going to go. And then what you're going to have is people who pay lip service to what they're supposed to believe, but they don't live the life they're supposed to live. And this is what we see. All these people being arrested, if they subscribe to the Christian faith, you will find that they are ardent church attenders, church goers.
Of course.
Ardent.
And they contribute.
They have
significantly.
They have a seat in church, and everybody knows that you don't go there. You know, but there's still this overarching desire by people who may have just gotten into those positions who say there are others who benefited hugely from being able to, you know, get public funds. I also want to be part of that. And I think this is what will dissuade a lot of people from going in that direction. It might dissuade those who are coming in the future. I do think that there's some people who are going to pass through the net and not going to get caught. That's for sure. And that's quite unfortunate when you think about the billions that may have been stolen. There's some people who will not, you know, get caught. But I think this is a warning sound, the warning signal that has been sounded for those coming ahead. Understand that this essentially is what would happen if you decided to do something like this. Now, you're not willing. It would be great if people went in clean of heart and decided to do their job clean. But now what this is doing is that it is forcing people to think that way. It would be nice if you went in with all your morals, you know, upright. But now, for fear of either being caught, for fear then of being prosecuted, you will then have to live along some kind of moral ruler.
You know, if you look at page 6 of the Standard, when they say counties use 2 trillion, but did it reach the people? A question. And then alongside that is a column. The last bit of that column talks about the absorption rate of the money that these counties get. Absorption means monies intended for certain purposes. There's a clear budget, a clear plan for it, and it can be seen that this money actually did what it was supposed to do. The average is 70.5%. But my friend, when you look at the details of what the counties have done, an average, again, of 30% essentially cannot be accounted for. That's what we're saying. When you talk about absorption, the money may not necessarily be there. Some cases, the money is actually returned.
Returned to the government, to the treasury.
The question we asked yesterday, were we ready for this devolution? Okay. The question that somebody may ask, can we expand our capacity for stealing so that the absorption rate is actually just 100% instead of the 70? Now, that's dark humor, but the truth of the matter is this. At the end of this discussion of the trillions and the billions, there are people whose lives are supposed to be changed for the better. They're supposed to get better schools. They're supposed to be better health care. There's supposed to be better security. There's supposed to be better welfare plans for the future, social plans. Now, this is what they don't get. So it isn't just what they're being accused of. Eric, you know my favorite theme, crimes against humanity.
Crimes against humanity.
Even as they're being accused for theft and graft, crime against humanity.
Because there's what you did ended up costing a life somewhere.
Lives.
A livelihood somewhere.
Yes, and it will do so for some time.
It'll have a huge impact on people.
It will. It will.
It's so unfortunate and so sad when you see, you know, some of these kind of cases. But the good thing, like you said, is that action is being taken.
Yes.
People doing it so blatantly and using your relatives. That's the other thing about us. You know, thieves don't have trust. You can only bring in somebody who's close that you can control. This is your child. This is your sister, who is your younger sister, who you are sure, as soon as the money checks into their account, they're going to transfer it into your account. Don't even keep it in their account.
Eric, think about
Surely.
it. What sort of nonsense is this when even the parental safeguards that people are supposed to have goes out of the window?
Out of the window.
It is sold.
We are doing it for the benefit. I mean, I'm doing this for you. That's why. Good morning. It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's keep it right here because we are coming to 8 o'clock. And after 8 o'clock, we'll be discussing the issue of standards and safety aflatoxin, face masks, imported goods and services. We had the other case of imported oil. All those with the KEBS Managing Director. Keep it right here. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything.
102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu.
Okay, a couple of accidents up on Gong Road today. Not affecting traffic as such, but you need to approach with caution right around the junction entrance. And then coming down towards the roundabout at the City Mortuary, you shouldn't have too much problems there. We had some issues coming off of Mbagathi Way, but it's okay now. The problem that we see today right now, though, is on Hulu Highway between Nyayo Stadium roundabouts all the way to Westlands. And we know that on Hulu Highway, just at around the Hulu Park, there's a problem today. Big problem, guys. And that's traffic going to be affected probably for the whole day. So that's where you need to approach with caution. If you can use an alternate route, it would be great. Coming off of Thika Road into the CBD, however, is looking good. Mombasa Road, we have some clog-ups, but should be fine in about an hour or so. You can talk to us as well. Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter.
'This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start.
Proverb, CT.
Yes, today's proverb. A man who marries a beautiful woman and a farmer who grows corn by the roadside have the same problem.
Same.
Same.
All right. Man who marries a beautiful woman and a farmer who grows corn by the roadside. Same problem. All are operating on road reserve.
Good Lord. Wow.
All attract, all in full view, all in. Take your pick.
All right, then.
Okay, let's talk about standards now, shall we? And we, every time we talk about standards and especially importing of goods, right now during this fight against COVID-19, everything has to. We've been hearing the word, the name KEBS being introduced. Talk about coming up with face masks, local production of PPEs, local production of beds. They companies that won tenders. In fact, the president even ordered that some guys somewhere in Kiambu County who had started making beds, let them be given this opportunity to produce beds and supply beds to hospitals for COVID-19. And the next thing they were told is, all right, what you need is to go to KEBS, get certified, and then now you can supply. So every time we talk about all these things, we talk about KEBS certification. When you hear about market raids, the other day there was a raid in the supermarkets of some certain brands of maize meal because they had not met some certain standards. Mm-hmm. You hear about aflatoxin in our foods, and the issue comes in KEBS and the standards. And then you hear the other day there was the issue of the imported edible oils. Remember that scandal of the edible oils, and who has released the edible oils, who has not released the edible oils,
and who had detained them
in the first place. There's the issue of have they met standards. There is the issue of importation. When you're importing anything, it needs to be inspected before it departs from that market into the Kenyan market to show that it conforms to the standards that are applicable in this country, right? And this is the pre-shipment verification that comes in, the pre-verification of conformity arriving in the country. All those things are issues that Kenya Bureau of Standards deals with on a daily basis. And of course, because of all that, then you will have a lot of back and forth, a lot of fights, a lot of people who are complaining that KEBS is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, or some people who are complaining that KEBS officers have raided their premises and carted away everything without due cause. All this happens on a daily basis.
It seems mysterious, and yet part of the reason maybe most people don't understand what KEBS does. We know they're supposed to maintain certain standards, but the thing is, for instance, what are the standards for, say, timber goods? What are the standards for edible goods, edible oils? What are the standards? And if one wanted to determine this, where would one go to get and understand what the standards are, and how are they determined?
And whoever comes up with these standards.
Yes, exactly. And what rule of thumb are they following? These are questions that people may not voice, but they ask and they say, okay, so how do we know that these standards they have set are the standards that we... All these questions. Again, KEBS haven't done a very good job of telling people what they do. What we know of them is what we read, and what we read is them seizing this, doing the other, and also...
Or their MD being arrested.
Yes, or removed.
Or removed.
That's what we know.
Or the board being reconstituted.
Yes, and yet for them to be there, it actually means that their function is one that is actually necessary.
Yeah.
And is needed.
It's a critical one.
It is a critical one. See, it's like the functions of the police. We have a fairly clear what they should do, but we also know what they do, or what the majority of them are reported to do. So, KEBS, unfortunately, falls in that category. The only good fortune about KEBS is that the people they deal with are people who bring in goods, people whose goods, they don't deal directly with the Mwananchi, yet their actions affect the lives of the Mwananchi very directly. So,
or do they deal directly with the Mwananchi?
They do. Not directly, indirectly. It's indirectly. Because, for instance, when I go to a shop and I want to buy an item and I see that KEBS logo, sticker, I assume it has been certified as safe. I automatically, I don't
and
question.
And you assume that this is genuine and authentic.
And I also assume that it's genuine KEBS.
Yeah.
Okay? Assuming that there is a fake KEBS somewhere. Or there are people who attempt to
Or that
fake.
they're fake stickers.
Yes, exactly. But I will assume it is safe. Right? That is the effect it has on me. Meaning, I may not even voice it, but I trust them. I have faith in what they do. Now, but whenever I keep reading articles in the papers about all these misdeeds, and I start wondering, goodness, how safe really am I? Because with all these things happening, the problem that amount of information, especially when it's negative, I'm not really sure what to believe and what not to.
You have very many questions. So let's just ask the boss. The Managing Director of the Kenya Bureau of Standards, retired Lieutenant Colonel Bernard Njeri, is joining us on the line now. Good morning, sir.
How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I hope I'm loud and clear.
You are
Yes, you are,
quite.
You are loud and clear. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me to this radio show.
Right.
I hope I got you clear. You are Eric, City, and Okoh.
Thank you.
That is true.
Yes.
So,
thank you very much.
Njeri, let's start from the very beginning. And as you heard in our introduction, there are very many people who, first of all, they know that there's KEBS and there's KEBS stickers and there's KEBS, enforces some standards. But just give us a quick explanation and a description of what KEBS actually does.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this radio talk show to discuss the topic issues that affect the public. And what you've said is, and have listened to your discussion, I want to maybe say in a very brief way what is our mandate. And our mandate is development of standards. And standards, there are very many levels of standards, starting with the manufacturer standard, the Kenyan standard, we have regional standards, we have international standards developed by the International Organization for Standardization. So we develop all the standards, we adopt standards, and we have mutual recognition of standards within the EAC region. So we also do metrology, that is the science of measurements, maintenance of measurement standards, as well as conformity assessment. And that entails verification of conformity to standards for goods that are coming from abroad, and we also do certification for goods that are manufactured within the country and issue the quality marks, that is the S mark, the D mark, and also the fortification mark. So that is what we do. Generally, we undertake testing, calibration. We also do training on standardization. We also now do conformity assessment. Basically, that is what we do as KEBS. We are a creature of the Standard Act, 496 of the laws of Kenya. So that is how we are constituted. Basically, we are an integrated. We have conformity assessment, methodology, and conformity assessment. So that is how we are structured.
When one thinks of the standards that you go ahead to enforce and all, the other question would be, who comes up with these standards? Let's talk about directly. Let's talk about the face masks, because that's what we're dealing with right now. And KEBS has come out to say, now these are the face masks that you can use, and these are the safe face masks. Who comes up with those standards for the face masks?
Thank you very much for that question. Standards are developed through a consensus way. We have a technical committee that is constituted through a very open way, where we advertise in the daily, in the print media, and we invite the stakeholders to join as members the experts to be developing these standards. And as the technical committees now start looking at the various standards, they will recommend for their approval. So there are 6 stages that we have before the standard is finally gazetted or published. So, for example, the standards we have for medical grade face mask, we have KS 26.6, and this is a standard that has been developed by quite a number of research organizations, universities, other stakeholders, like, for example, the medical practitioners, and they come up with the specifications that will now be used in that standard.
I mean, looking at all this, it's clear that, you've put up barriers to getting lower standard or standard-less products into the market. But somehow things seem to find themselves on the shelves or in the market that are below these standards that could actually cause some harm to individuals. What happens, and how do they get through the nets?
Yes, like I've said, we have 3 layers of inspection to ensure that there is high level of products within the country. One, we have the PVOC program, that is pre-export verification of conformity to standard, and we have engaged contracted third-party partners that are stationed in the country of origin. They do conformity assessment, and they issue certificate of conformity to product before they are shipped into the country. So anything that comes either through JKIA, ICDN, or Mombasa, or any other border points within the country must be accompanied by a certificate of conformity indicating compliance to standards. And thereafter, at the border point, we do undertake risk-based random sampling to ascertain these products are meeting the minimum specifications as required by the standard. Thereafter, when they go now to the stores, the supermarket, we have market surveillance department. So our people, officers, would go to the supermarket, pick products randomly, and bring for testing in our laboratories. So that is the structure that we have to ascertain the quality of the product coming into the country.
Okay.
And also those that are also manufactured within the country. There are means we have for, first of all, testing whether the quality marks that they have are valid by sending a certain code to 223, and then you get a response indicating the validity of that quality mark that has been issued there. So that is how we are able to confirm that these products are okay.
So if you have this random, I'm just going to stick on that point, because if you have this random surveillance, for example, in specific supermarkets across board,
Yes.
so until and unless there's that happens, the likelihood then of substandard products still being bought by, the general public and then being consumed at home then still remains high, because if you don't have that surveillance taking place every day, for example, or once a month, or 3 times in a quarter, then there's still chances that there are substandard goods out in the market. Can you really say that there's a handle on everything at any given time?
Let me see that we are running a campaign to enjoin the general public in our campaign to eradicate substandard products. This campaign, we called it Wajibika na Kebs, where we expect the public to join us as our partners to be able to minimize the substandards that are out in the market. In the recent past, in the very few months that we've been there, we've been able to undertake surveillance of peanut butter in terms of checking their aflatoxin levels. We have withdrawn permits for manufacturers that were operating above the threshold that is required, that is 15 ppb. The mattresses, we've been able to also do market surveillance and withdrawn the permits for them. The maize flour, you are aware, we've done, I think we are in the 5th cycle in a few months, non-woven bags for packaging. Ceramic tiles, we've done that. For cosmetics, we've done. Hand sanitizers, you've seen we've drawn, certain sanitizers that were not meeting the threshold for the alcohol content and antibacterial efficacy levels. Face mask, you've seen for milk. We are currently now having a plan for animal feed, cement, steels, structural steels.
But I guess the question is, just to interject,
and going way forward.
The question is, from your own experience, from your surveillance, from your intelligence gathering, how is it that these products find their way into the market? How do they find their way onto the shelves? Because yes, we can help you fight this by sending the SMSs and verifying the authenticity of their mark, but how have you established how they end up onto the shelves? What's the route?
Yes, I can explain what happens. Before a manufacturer starts manufacturing, it's a requirement by law from the Standard Act that you must have a quality mark. So we do what we conduct a product certification scheme that require manufacturers to establish quality assurance controls as defined in our scheme of supervision agreed between ourselves and the manufacturer. That before you manufacture, you'll be, first of all, you'll be checking your raw materials, the in-process controls measures you have put to have established, and also post-process controls. And then we issue him with a certificate now to continue producing. We don't position our officers in his factory. And what we expect is, based on the agreement that we have with him, that he's going to be producing that product as per the specification as agreed. And thereafter, what happens is he has now the moral obligation to continue producing as per what we have agreed. And the only way we can now confirm that he's producing is occasional, random, and surprise visit to his establishment and find out whether the products we pick from the market are conforming to that. And that is what we've been doing in the recent past. And you have seen that we are really aggressive in terms of withdrawing products that are not conforming to the standards. That is how it works. But of course, there will be few elements. Sometimes manufacturers, because the profit sometimes is in cheating, they will not put the critical parameters that is required. For example, if you come to edible oil, you find there's a requirement that he has to fortify with vitamin A, because out of a study that was done, it was established that there's a deficiency of that vitamin within the population, and the vehicle that can be able to transport or contain that element is the vitamin A, because it's a soluble vitamin.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be people who will be cutting shortcuts, but we are soon going to get them, and we are doing it. Because once we withdraw your permit, you cannot continue manufacturing, and your reputation really goes down.
Are there instances where you've done the market surveillance and found products on the shelves that whose manufacturer you don't even know, or whose manufacturer has never come to seek for certification from you?
Yes, surely that happens. There are manufacturers that operate without the S mark, the standardization mark. But what we do is we seize the product and we take them to court. This is common. But again, we are working with the associations. For example, Kenya Association of Manufacturers. We are working with the Supermarket Association. We are working with many stakeholders to try to educate the people the need to have the S mark. Remember, we are now having an integrated EAC integration, and the Common Market Protocol requires that we mutually recognize standards from the region. The only way we can increase our market, population is to also get the S mark so that we can sell in our neighboring countries because they recognize our quality marks. And that is why we urge the SMEs to get the S mark.
Beyond this partnership that you've mentioned, what other ways does KEBS, or what other means does KEBS have at its disposal for ensuring that the general public are informed about all these things that KEBS is all about?
Well, we have a very active Facebook, Twitter, and we are occasionally advertising this in the print media. We want to intensify these campaigns through a radio show like what we are doing today to educate the public the need to, first of all, check the quality mark on the product they are procuring. That before you consume something, it is good you look at the label and confirm whether there's a KEBS quality mark in that. And above that, you should be able to check whether the number there is valid in terms of when you send the response that you get confirms the date of manufacturer, who is manufacturing, all the details will be captured in the response that you'll be getting. So we are trying to reach out as many people as possible to understand the need to ascertain the level of quality of the product that they are buying.
But from what you've just said,
yes,
we have a very small percentage of Kenyans who have access to social media. And they don't, yes, it's a very small percentage really, compared to those who don't have social media. How often do you use radios, for instance? How often, you're going to mention TVs, again, a very small number of Kenyans actually have access to TV. The one means of communication that many people have access to is a radio. How often do you use radio?
I now invite you to be our partner as the Spice Radio to pass this message across the country that KEBS is there and their top priority is protection of safety and health of the consumers. That is a message I would like you to pass across, that KEBS is there for them. We are not necessarily there to stop people producing, to block people, to be an obstacle, to be a trade barrier, but there to take care of their welfare.
Okay, I mean, just now from that, you're talking about being there for people. A couple of months ago, we saw, what was it, Eric? Chewable Mirror?
Yep.
Or something like that. And looking at this innovation and creation, now when you're talking about being there for people and not necessarily being a trade barrier, then there's also encouragement when it comes to business and entrepreneurship in this country. People have brilliant ideas, and normally by the time they get to the place whereby they have crafted this scientifically, they've innovated, they've been creative, they get to the point where they want to bring it to the market. KEBS in the past, and maybe you probably tell us differently now, KEBS has been now the place where they come and stop in terms of approvals for their product to get to the market. Do you envision KEBS being a partner in business in this country, whereby beforehand you let people know what the standards are, what are certain things that you're looking for, partnering with businesses to make sure that yes, they come up with a product that meets all the standards, but at the same time encouraging more and more to be innovative with products that can be used in country?
Thank you. I want to say that one of our mandate is to facilitate trade. And the way we facilitate trade, one is develop standards. Because it's only through standards that you can automate, that there can be compatibility, repeatability, and what we call interoperability. That is creating something with a characteristic that can have, an interface, usability with and communicate with other gadgets, for example. And for businesses and especially small medium enterprises, we are encouraging them to come forward to get the S-mark so that they can have a standard way of doing things. Because without standard, you cannot be able, for example, to make parts. For example, if you're making the medical bed, like, for example, the one that was innovated by some young men from Kiambu, it will require a caster wheel. And the caster wheel has a specific dimensions, maybe for fitting or fastening the bolts. So if you're making the caster wheel bracket without a standard, so you don't know even the measurement from one bolt to the other, the holes that you cut in that plate. If you don't, so there would be, if there's standard, there will be people who will just concentrate in making the bracket for fitting in the caster wheel. And that is a creation of employment. So we emphasize on standard. And for example, the product that you just mentioned, Mira, we are looking into a way of how we can facilitate that innovator to be able to produce that. But we have to, again, consider the legality of the issues surrounding the Mira. And as we are clear on that, of course, we are going to issue him with the S-mark.
Let's talk about the pre-export verification of conformity. And there was a bit of a push and pull with the various companies and organizations, because at some point, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, in the middle of a contract, came up with a bid to expand the number of organizations that can provide this certification. First of all, for the benefit of everybody who's listening, what is pre-export verification of conformity?
Thank you. Pre-export verification of conformity to standard is a program for product verification and inspection before this product imported into our country. So is a program that we have engaged third-party partners on behalf of KEBS to be verifying the conformity to standards. These companies are basically out of the country, and we have a contract with them. What they do, they use the certificate of analysis from the manufacturer to ascertain whether that product meets the requirement, the test report for the machines, and they issue certificate of conformity, the COC, that we now are able to use, because that we have now confidence that that product has been checked. So that is what the pre-shipment is all about. Mm-hmm. And this is, KEBS does not pay any money. These are agents that we have enlisted out there to do inspection on our behalf. And they use the standard. They use ISO 17020, and that is the certification these companies have, demonstrating their capability and capacity to do that work. Mm-hmm. Of course, some of them have laboratories, but others, they also subcontract or outsource where they are not able to test themselves. So based on that fact, that these companies, first of all, must be qualified. They have been certified by the ISO. So there's nothing junior, and you need as many companies as possible to ease the movement of goods. The purpose for having the PVOC program is to fast-track the importation process, which generally reduces the cost of doing business. You remember in 2018, out of the multi-agency, activities that resulted in quite a number of products being confirmed that were not meeting the requirements, there was a big issue. And then there was a policy now, let us try to intensify the tests that are done abroad. And as it was now very stringent, it was taking quite a long time before the products are brought into the country. And then we discovered there was a gap. We needed to increase the number of the inspectors abroad. And that is why we decided now we have to open up, because the contract that we had signed with the partners now that we had an undisclosure agreement allowing us to expand and increase as and when required. It is in the interest of the country.
Do those contractors pay KEBS any money?
Yes, of course, they charge the importers some fee, and they remit about 30% of that money to KEBS.
And is the fee that they charge to whoever wants to import the same?
It depends. We have different routes. For example, if the product is a bit risky, it's under Route A. They normally do 100% inspection. For certain products that are normally imported frequently and homogeneous in nature, they are under Category B, where they are registered, and they will do random checks. And then there's Route C for manufacturers, where they basically just verify whether those products are coming from established manufacturers. They have certificates of analysis, and they just issue them with a COC. So we have different routes, and each one of them has a different fee. For example, for manufacturers is 0.3%. For the other one, 0.55, and the other one, 0.6 for Route A, I think. Yes.
Let's take a break, take a look at the weather and traffic, and then we will continue this conversation briefly with the Managing Director of the Kenya Bureau of Standards. This is Lieutenant Colonel Bernard Njeri. He is telling us about KEBS and its KEBS operations. 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. Keep it right here.
Spice FM. Njeri.
All right, it's warming up in Nairobi. The sun is peeking out through those clouds. Partly cloudy conditions only in Nairobi at 16 degrees. We'll see highs of 24, and there's a chance of rain in the later part of today going into the weekend. It's mostly cloudy in Njeri at 16 degrees, highs of 22 and lows of 13. Also predicted to be a wet afternoon there. Sunny conditions in Nakuru at 16 degrees, going to highs of 23 today, and showers expected later. It's mostly sunny in Eldoret at 15, highs of 21 and lows of 12, with thunderstorms forecasted for the afternoon. It's going to be a rainy day in Kisumu this afternoon. It's mostly sunny at the moment at 21 degrees, and in Kakamega 19 degrees and mostly sunny, highs of 24 and lows of 15 with a chance of rain later on. It's mostly sunny in Mombasa, and it's going to be full-on sunny in the afternoon, highs of 28 and lows of 23. Malindi will be partly cloudy throughout the day, highs of 28 and lows of 25. We'll take a look then out into Kampala, where it's 20 degrees and partly cloudy. Chance of thunderstorms later with highs of 26 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam, shallow fog throughout most parts of the day, going into only partly cloudy conditions later with highs of 31 and lows of 22. In Joburg, it's mostly sunny at 11, highs of 23 and lows of 11. And finally, for now in Lagos, it's 25 degrees and partly cloudy. highs of 30 and lows of 23.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
Traffic is looking good in most parts. We don't have much traffic within the city, outside of the city, though headed in different directions off of Mombasa Road and then out on Thika Road as well as Wayaki Way. Some heightened levels of traffic there. It is the weekend, so this we understand. Uhuru Highway, though, we have that issue and it's going to be that way the whole day. So let's just be ready for this one. Traffic on Uhuru Highway will be heightened today and over the next couple of days until this part of this construction is either completed or moved to another area. So expect that, okay? Apart from that, it's looking good. Look at other cities in the country. We don't have much traffic levels today. Coming off of Thika Road into the CBD, however, a little bit of a clog up right around Pangani Underpass, but it won't take you too long to get out of that. Mombasa Road is behaving very well today. Let us know if you get stuck anywhere. Spice FM KE. Reach us on Twitter.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
4 minutes to 9 o'clock. We continue our conversation with Bernard Njeri, the managing director of the Kenya Bureau of Standards. The Kenya Bureau of Standards is one organization where when things go wrong somewhere, you'll hear people talking about KEBS. That's the point when they'll say, where was KEBS when we're having aflatoxin? And especially when it comes to food stuff. And that's what we want to now talk about, Bernard Njeri. When you talk about, food and food items, this is something that you say, yes, you had conducted a raid in the market and you were looking at peanut butter and looking at the level of aflatoxin in peanut butter. You also had a raid on maize flour in the market. Same about, the levels of aflatoxin in those. When it comes to this food stuff, and you're saying that, you'd like now the public to be able to work with you on this, how can I tell whether what's on the shelves is actually safe for consumption?
First and foremost, I want to assure Kenyans that Kenya Bureau of Standards is committed to ensure the level of safety of the product they are consuming is high. And that is why, like I have said, we have the PVOC program to test on the products that are coming into the country. We have our officers at the border point, again, doing random checks on this product to confirm that this product of the right quality. And we have our market surveillance department in the lookout, going in supermarkets, in the stores, picking up this product to take to our laboratories to test and establish whether they meet the requirements. Like I have said, we have certification scheme that requires now manufacturers to produce as per the agreement.
Mm-hmm. So, but as a consumer, just going straight into the answer to this question, as a consumer, how can I tell?
The first thing that a consumer should check is he should check whether there's a quality mark, KEBS mark in that product. After that, he should read a number that is underneath there. That is the permit number. Mm-hmm. If you check that number, you're supposed to. If you send that number to 223, you are going to get a response, and that response is going to indicate the validity of that product in terms of the manufacturer and other details that are there. If it fails to give you a response, unless there is a system failure on our side, then that product is not certified. And that is the first step that we should now, try to see whether that product
is this number given to a manufacturer or is it given per unit?
It is given per product, not that every product has a unique. If it is, for example, a certain food product, if you talk peanut butter, a certain brand will have the same number.
So it's not going to be per batch. It's actually going to be per product. So as long as
it's per product.
It's
per product.
Eric Latiff has a production planned for peanut butter, and I came and once received the certification, I have the same number.
Yes.
So this batch and the next batch, how can I verify that the future batches will conform?
What I can say is that working together with the other regulators and also Kenya Revenue Authority, we are coming up with a more advanced standardization quality mark that will have more security features for trace and track capability with different layers of security, where a customer can use his smartphone to scan the QR code and get more details with specific identification number for a particular product. Even if it is a bottle of wine, the same batch, but will have different numbers. So that is something that is work ongoing to come up with that ISM mark, that is a quality mark, sticker.
Just going a little bit further into the nitty-gritty, because if I bring a product to KEBS today and I'm asking for the standardization mark, so there's certain processes that I must go through. You're checking, you come and check where I am producing this product, and you give me the okay based on the sample that I bring to you.
Yes.
This product now goes onto the shelf. Yes. In the future, should CT, my colleague, buy this product and send now the permit number, is what you called it, the permit code, to 223.
Yes.
Regardless of what I brought to you as a sample, vis-a-vis what is on the shelf, he's going to get a response saying that this product is okay, registered under KEBS. Meanwhile, it is not the same as what came to the sample. I think that's where we are getting to now. How can we make sure that whatever product I put on the shelf in the future still meets the standards that you gave the mark when I came with a sample?
Well, what I can see is that it is the responsibility of the manufacturer to ensure that he's producing as per the standard. And Section 10 of our Act compels him to do that. And that is why our market surveillance officers will occasionally pick the product from the shelves and bring to our laboratory for test. Okay. And that is the only way we can enforce these. But largely, what I can say is it is the responsibility of manufacturer to confirm that he is producing as per the standard. Okay. Again, you have to look at it this way, that the manufacturer's intent is to increase his market base.
Yep.
Of course, if he produces a poor product, of course, he's likely to lose the market. Yes, that is the rationale, and that's what happens elsewhere. Responsibility to ensure the product meets the requirement lies with the manufacturer. Okay. Ours is there to facilitate him do that.
Okay. I'm assuming that all these services that KEBS provide, not for free.
Yes.
So, how much money does KEBS generate on a yearly basis, and how much of this money is for its operational costs, and how much of it goes to the exchequer?
I may not have specific details as of now, but what we do is we charge a small fee to manufacturers, that is 0.2% of their revenue for our standardization work, because as a regulator we don't get any government funding, so we generate money out of the levies, small levies that we collect, that is 0.2%, and the with an upper limit of 400,000, even if you are to produce your output is so huge, your upper limit you can pay is 400,000. So our budget ranges between 4 billion to thereabout, and operational costs, we move a lot in market surveillance, in standardization work. We have to travel, get certification and all that. So basically, and any suppliers that we do declare, we remit to the government.
All right. So we want to thank you very much for speaking to us today, Bwana Njeri. This is Bwana Njeri. He's the managing director of the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Thank you for speaking to us. We'll have more conversations with you, especially once you want to engage further on the matter of educating the public, on creating awareness, on how the public can then also engage and reach out to you. If, for example, I send that message and I don't receive the particular response that I expect to receive, then what should I do, or how can I get in touch with KEBS? All this is information that, like you said, you are already engaging with the consumers on this, and you'll be expanding this conversation with the consumers. And of course, we'll have you again to expand this conversation with the consumers on this particular matter. Asante sana for speaking to us.
Thank you very much, and we want you to be our ambassador to spread the message that KEBS is there for the Kenyans, and to ensure the products that are there in the market are of the right quality for a group of our economy, and especially now that we want our economy to peak. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's 8:45. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, we're talking about import and export, and then pre-import and pre-export verification. All those goods will come and end up somewhere, especially if they're coming via sea, somewhere at the port. And the Kenya Ports Authority has some information as well on how you can understand the port operations through the Kenya Ports Authority, kpa.co.ke/Captain KARGO.
Right. So document processing standards. The last couple of days, we've been looking at the documents that are required for you to import or export. And we went through all of those, quite a number. But because of this portal, you're able to track exactly what that is. But then they offer a standard. And the invoice processing within 30 minutes upon submission of the pickup order or pre-advice. So now those are the standards that they're offering. That here we are saying that there's so many documentations that are needed across board, from import all the way to export and vice versa. And regardless of what it is, it's going to take you 30 minutes upon submission of that order that you then will get your invoice. And also correspondence standards. An email response within 24 hours, acknowledgement of receipt and response to your letters, for those of you who still write letters, within 5 working days, you will have an answer. And those are the customer service issues on the charter, on the platform.
And what happens if you don't?
If you don't write a letter?
If you don't get a response within the specified times?
Well, somebody's going to answer, that's for sure.
Okay.
According to the captain.
And is there a number that one should call if one doesn't get a response?
Yes, and we'll be looking at the telephone call standards the next time.
Okay.
13 minutes to 9 o'clock. Remember, you can get all this information on www.kpa.co.ke/Captain Cargo.
Mellow Spice. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Listening to how KEBS operates and the kind of things that, you will deal with KEBS on a direct basis at some point. And especially because maybe at some point you may go and buy something and you have a bit of a doubt on, is this thing legit? And how to confirm whether it's legit or not is by engaging with KEBS through their various platforms. But also, as a retailer, because you're talking about everybody has a responsibility. So the law says that as a manufacturer, you have a responsibility to come confirm that what you're producing meets the standards, and then you go ahead and meet those standards. When people start cutting corners, and we see this often, people cutting corners. That's why this market surveillance goes and unearths and they start doing a crackdown. It's because somebody has gone somewhere and cut corners. So then, how do we as a community start dealing with these things as a society?
I don't think that agencies such as KEBS promise you to be fault-free. They promise to keep improving on the services that they provide and trying new ways of ensuring that the services that they advertise, that they provide, are provided to the best capacity that they can. But the question that comes to mind, even as I say this, who oversees KEBS?
A board. From board, you go to the Ministry of Trade.
I do think here
Ministry,
is
you
where
go
we
to
see it.
cabinet. Cabinet, you go to president.
And then, celestial. Oversight.
Yes. Now, having asked that question, let me ask what I wanted to ask.
Oh, okay.
It was going somewhere.
How is it then that with this lovely chain and hierarchy of oversight that Eric has actually illustrated lovelily in a verbally way, okay? How is it then that KEBS is always embroiled in so many issues? Is it that oversight isn't working? Is it that they choose people who are not fit for the job? Though this I doubt. People who are chosen are fit for the job. So what is it about the institution? Because a lot of what one reads about KEBS in the papers, it's not that it's what they do, but what you read tends to be it leans more towards what is negative than what is positive.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's more of the negative. I mean, it'll come up in the headlines, oh, this MD has been kicked out because of something involving some multi-million shilling scam, something that they were supposed to have done. And then you also start to hear the internal politics of this, where certain forces are influencing the removal of a certain MD. When you talk about the guys especially who import stuff, somebody has imported a consignment of sugar into the country, and they want to sell that sugar in the country. And KEBS has said, nope, this thing is not going to go into the country.
Or someone has, like the edible oil issue.
The edible oil issue.
Man, containers and containers, and suddenly there's an issue, and then the politics comes in. How often do you hear of an entire board being disbanded? Being told,
step out.
Yes, board, all of it, in its entirety. Hence my question. Yes.
What do you think happens?
What I think is that whatever supervisory powers the various arms of government have been given, when it comes to KEBS, they don't apply it.
Cross-board.
No, they don't as often as they could. Because if you do, all the drama that we see wouldn't arise.
When you look at all these things, the boards are political appointees.
Yes, they are.
Direct
Yes.
political appointee.
Yes.
And then the management is appointed by the board, which is a political appointee. That means the management is a political appointee.
Yes.
Should we change this, especially for these key parastatals, and say that there shall be a proper recruitment process which involves the public, and the public, there's a way in which this board is actually selected?
Transparently competitive,
Yes.
so that you have an idea. Or you may do so, but let the appointing process be done by what you call an independent body.
An independent, yes. A third-party independent body that looks at, all right, so what do we need? What capacity do we need to inject into this board? Is it audits? Is it financial management? Is it understanding of the industry and the sector?
Is
that
it
this board
marketing? Is it
marketing?
whatever?
So whichever this other third board, that body is looking at how to get people on board. Because what we see with boards is this is where the president and ministers reward their cronies. It's all about rewarding.
Me, the rewarding bit, I don't even have a problem with if that's what they want to do. But, you see, rewarding often implies that the people who are then given those jobs are not capable of doing the jobs. It may not necessarily be true. But because in the era in which we live, and with the transparency that our constitution intended to actually bring forth to the country, let somebody who is not directly involved do that job. Because there are people whose job it is to do such things.
Yeah.
They headhunt, they do that. So you now know. Because they have a reputation to maintain, they are unlikely to bring their own set of people whom they like for their own benefits, because it could kill their business.
It could completely kill their business.
Yes, and that's not what they want.
Look at some of these people who are appointed to these boards, and you wonder, so what is it that they're bringing into this particular board? A chairman of a certain board, for instance, you ask yourself, all right, so they have some level of expertise in management or something, but what exactly is it that they are bringing into the board?
Given what this particular
organization does.
Yes, exactly. You have to ask.
Or what's their track record in certain levels of management? For example, remember we were talking to the immediate former chairman of Safaricom. So the immediate former chairman of Safaricom had worked in public service.
For a very long
for a
time.
long time. So he understands government and how the government works.
Government functions,
And
yes.
then came out, worked in private sector. When he was getting appointed into these leadership positions, what is it that they were looking for? It's about character.
Experience, capacity, yes.
If it's all these things, then you can say, yes, this is what we are bringing. We are bringing a level-headed person to sit in the board, and this is what they'll offer into the board. We are bringing this person because they have chaired several other boards, then they can now chair. They know how to manage a board of very many interests. They'll know how to manage the meetings and the steering of this organization at board level.
You know, Eric, it is interesting you should say that, because you will find that there are very many people who have chairmanship positions in even the private sector, and you'll find they're either board members or chairman of other yes,
similar institutions.
because it tells you that whatever these institutions require, the high level, the high standards of expertise and knowledge and capacity, this one individual has shown or demonstrated clearly they have it. So they're not afraid to offer him a chairmanship, even if they already have a chairmanship elsewhere.
Yeah.
They're not afraid, because they know that their business will be in safe hands. And usually, if you look at the track record of where they've been, it isn't a lie. You can actually see, but the companies that this individual has actually chaired, this is the track record that you see. Yes, there's an openness, there's a certain element of growth in it, and it's positive.
When it comes to standards being applied, though, I think unfortunately, because of the competition that we see, unfortunately, there will be then mediocrity that is applied to this, because then there's big business in this. There's big business at stake when it comes to those who would want something passed, whether it has met the standards or not, or somebody then who would want an element of protectionism when it came to their own business. And that's the unfortunate thing with things like this. It's interesting to note that here, though, this is one of the sectors in Kenya that you see the highest levels of citizen participation. Because if you get a product off the shelf, for example, you'll find that it is here that people test it in their own little kitchen and then send out information to the public and say, hey guys, I bought this thing the other day and
It's not working.
it's not working.
Yep.
Rarely
It's
do
not
they
meeting the
take it.
standards.
Rarely do they take it to the authority. It's for people to then make a judgment based on that particular thing. But then again, it doesn't put KEBS under the spotlight. It puts the manufacturer under the spotlight. But I'm saying it should go back to the authority that allowed this stuff on the shelf in the first place.
It should. It should. What is certain, even as we think about this, you see, my mind went, for instance, to the cereals board, the board that deals with cereals, because when we're talking about issues of wrongdoing, and you wonder, man, they surpass KEBS. In terms of the shenanigans and the drama,
Yep.
the things that board has undergone, right from 1965.
It's about commercial interests.
Yes, it is. And it's about a commodity that this country relies on.
Yeah.
Or it's about commodities that we rely on as a staple. So it means there is never shortage of demand. But it bespeaks volumes, because we do have parastatals that you don't hear so much drama in. You don't get to hear. So the question is,
Some of them because they were eaten to the ground.
essentially they are dead.
They're just basically dead.
Or
KFA,
or they're limping in that direction.
Kenya Farmers Association. When's the last time you heard of KFA?
Or maybe they're
Or
doing their
ADC.
job.
No.
Or maybe some
Have
that are
no
doing
job.
You know, we're
Or
going
some
to
that
ask
are
you,
doing
we're
their
going to
job.
ask you to give us an example of that one shortly.
Kauro.
Well,
Kauro.
yeah, true.
I'll give you that example
True.
for sure. Those guys are
And
getting
what's
the
their job
done.
again?
I think they have
Livestock
they're quite
and agriculture and livestock research.
And then they've gone beyond that, even sharing this information at no charge to the public in terms of training for you to know the best in terms of what you can do for your own businesses. They go
Actually-
above and beyond.
Actually, I was rather hoping you'd have said the agriculture ministry perhaps takes the cup when it comes to that. Because if you talk of ILRI, you'll find same story. Any of our parastatals that have to do
This
with
one's that
research,
have research is
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Kemri, Ilri. Well, Kemri, there was a time.
There was a-
Kemri, Ilri. All of them you'll find, yes. But the others that involve some bit of trading. You know, because research standards are high. And for you to get a lot of the fundings, and part of the reason is because their management and the monies don't necessarily come from the government. Yeah.
A portion of it does, but a good portion of that money comes from donors who demand high
Yeah.
standards.
So there's international accountability.
There is international accountability.
Coming to the top of the hour, this is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll be back on the conversation about, let's not call it corruption. Let's call it application of public funds and devolution. All right? So a lot of money has been spent on devolution in the last 7 years. How many trillion shillings? 2.2 trillion shillings sent to the counties. Have you felt the impact of these 2 trillion shillings that has been sent to the counties in the last 7 years? Good morning. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. It's now coming up to 9 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything I spice it.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so
Traffic.
announcement that we know that parts of Bagadi Way will be closed tomorrow and Sunday from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. So you want to plan that you use other parts of the road or alternate routes if you can, because they're working on the footbridge truss on some parts of Bagadi Way. So remember, Bagadi Way, Saturday, Sunday, it's a big deal, guys. So if you have to, in terms of planning ahead, take that into consideration, okay? Coming off of Thika Road this morning into the CBD is where it looks pretty good. We don't have much in terms of traffic. And then where we do have the major problem is on Uhuru Highway. And this is between the Nyayo Stadium roundabout and going all the way to Westlands. It's likely to be that way through most parts of today. Okay, so just to check quickly, remember, Bagadi Way, tomorrow and Sunday, closed. Uhuru Highway is chock-a-blocked. Avoid if you can. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
2.5 minutes after 9 o'clock, the Situation Room broadcasts on Spice FM from Nairobi, 94.4, Mombasa, 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru, 96.0, Eldoret, 96.7, Njeri, 90.9, and Malindi is 97.7. So, how counties have spent billions of shillings that has been spent to them? 2.42 trillion shillings total allocation to the county government since 2013. But has this money reached the people? This is a story actually on the page 8 of the Standard this morning, and is looking at how much, for example, was allocated to the counties in the 2012-2013 year. In 2012-2013, there were no counties. And during that time, regional administrations, these are, county councils, municipal councils and all, collectively spent 16.5 billion shillings. This is up to between June 2011 and June 2012. July 2011, June 2012, all right? Only 16.5 billion shillings. And then, of course, the next financial year, devolution kicks in. So money was allocated to devolved counties. And progressively, we've seen, now we're talking about 316.5 billion shillings that will go to county governments in the year 2020, 2021. Similar amount of money was sent to the county governments in 2019, 2020. So looking at this, in total, the county of Mandera, since 2013 to 2019, has received 69.5 billion shillings. Turkana County is actually the one that has received the most, and this is 77.3 billion shillings. So we're looking at just the vast counties in terms of landmass. Turkana, the highest, 77.3 billion shillings. Mandera, 69.5 billion shillings. Wajir, 56.3 billion shillings. Garissa, 49.4 billion. Marsabit, 41.7 billion. Makueni, 56.7 billion. Kitui, 61.9 billion. Kilifi, 72.9 billion. Kwale, 53.9 billion. Tana River, 33.9 billion. Kajiado, 45 billion. Narok, 57.5 billion. Nakuru, 95.4 billion shillings. Throughout the years, all right? Of course, the one that receives the most is Nairobi, because of also Nairobi's location and everything else. 192 billion shillings. 192 billion shillings spent by the county government of Nairobi since devolution kicked in. Where has the money gone? Can you feel it? Can you feel the impact of this money? Of course, you've got to remember that this money goes not only for development, so there's also recurrent expenditure, and this is doing a lot of things, paying salaries, paying the usual bills.
What? Goes without saying that recurrent expenditure is the highest cost
Yep.
through all of this, right? Overheads and such
Yep.
always will be the highest marker when it comes to spend.
But development money is also not just small time. So, for example, if you look at Baringo County, in that period, they have received 5.8 billion shillings going to development. Right? Njeri, 6.8 billion shillings to development. Tana River, 7.8 billion shillings has gone into development. West Pokot, 7.35 billion shillings going into development. Has there been development worth 7.35 billion shillings that you can actually tangibly say this is what 7.35 billion shillings has done in the last 7 years in West Pokot?
Well, I think it requires it requires a presence in some of these areas to see. It goes beyond just speak and say, well, this is what I did and this is what I ordered, or etc. It requires a presence to actually have felt that money that was spent or used was actually done. Was there something that because this is it goes down to the citizens and the people, offices, etc., etc. Is there something that has been done? Is there something that you can see that has been done progressively over the years that was not done before? I think that's the only way then you would be able to say, it's one of the ways that you then be able to say, well, we can see that, there's a present living example of, development.
Yeah.
And that could have only been as the result of money having been spent.
But
right?
there's a little detail. We didn't devolve all the functions of government to the counties. Huh? Please understand. So there are things that may be visible signs of what you call development, but it's national government work. So let's start with what are the devolved functions that the counties have? And that is what we need to judge the performance by.
Number 1, health. Number 2, agriculture.
Education.
Health.
No, that is
Basic.
early childhood education.
Yes.
Only nursery.
Only nursery, right?
If you're talking about health, a complete mess.
Mess.
No, it's a complete mess.
There are some counties that will argue that, well, we have, for example, put up new facilities, or we went and revamped some facilities.
Facilities are all good and well, but there is this little detail.
Equipping and
Yes,
staffing.
it has to be functional. Look, what's the use of a building if it isn't useful to the people for whom it's supposed to be built? In all honesty. The thing is this, I'm not going by the people, the examples of the exceptions, people who've done well. That's not the discussion. Because that is a sign that the money actually went. Because you don't even need to be told, you don't need to see it rather. You hear about it, you read about it. Okay? Do you really think we'd be reading and owing and ahhing about Makueni if every other county in this country was like Makueni?
Of course not.
No.
It would not be the poster child for development
Yes,
if everybody else
yes.
was actually doing it.
Yes. What
right?
is the norm for the Ministry of Health within our counties?
To mess things up.
Yes, strikes. And then strikes. And then an absence of things that you need. Now, the question that you then have to ask again, which also comes out in this lovely, lovely report, is something called capacity, absorption.
Yep.
Because there's a lovely list here of counties who have been given money, and the one who takes number 1 is actually Nakuru. They are the worst absorption rate.
61%.
Yes. Worst.
So basically, what we're saying here by absorption is money has been budgeted for, and the lovely bit about having one office called the controller of budget is that you have created your budget, but for you to actually get access to this money, you have to convince the controller of budget that this follows within what you had budgeted for, what had been appropriated by the county assembly, and it meets all the requirements. Then you have access to that money. So there are counties that have budgeted their money, but they have not been able to access that money, and therefore they have not been able to spend that money. And when we talk about an absorption rate of 61%, that means 61% of the money that had been budgeted by Nakuru County, allocated in Nakuru County, is what has been spent. 39% hasn't been spent. What are you talking about, man? When you say that, and we're looking at Nakuru County, which has 95.4 billion shillings allocated to it since 2013, there's 30% that has not been absorbed, has had to go back because of whatever issues those ones are, which would be interesting to actually find out
What the reasons were.
what were these reasons.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about close to 30 billion
Yeah.
that has not been spent. That's a lot of money. Yes.
Over 7 years, yes, but it's 30
No, it's
billion
over
shillings
7
that could have
years.
gone
It's
into.
30 billion, even it's over 10 years. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
That when you look at things that were then not executed in these counties, could have actually gone towards making sure those things worked.
But this money, it's a
That's
bit,
the thing.
you see, the thing is a bit tricky. Huh? Remember, also, there's this little detail that Eric mentioned of not being given money when you have not clearly indicated
What it's for.
or what you've done with the previous one. The one they first give you, then they give you. Thereafter, you had better document with clarity, according to the required standards, how this money has been utilized. Otherwise, you're not touching the next batch.
Why
Or
is it-
they give you the equivalent of what you can determine and prove.
Why is it so difficult?
It's not difficult.
So then what's the problem? Is this capacity, lack of capacity, not being able to explain things properly? Because you talked about explaining things then with clarity.
In this
Is
country,
there-
we
is
can
there-
explain
is
anything.
there-
We can explain the moon.
with clarity.
And tell you that
So-
usually the moon can be seen in a specific place on a
Uh-huh.
certain days.
Very good. But look at the results that we're talking about now. If that were the case, then you would not be seeing these low numbers of absorption. You would not be seeing it.
Which is
If
why
you
I
can
have-
explain yourself to the moon and back, then I have a problem with these numbers that we're seeing. Because
Especially
we
if you
should
look-
be able to apply this across board. The explanation comes from somewhere. You should be
Yeah.
able to apply it across board.
And if
Why
you
are
think
the
about
numbers
it,
so low?
you created a budget. You knew how much you are going to receive. You created a budget. You went to the county assembly. You were in agreement with your county assembly that this is what we shall do with the money for the next financial year. These are the programs, these are the projects that we want to launch or want to finish in the next financial year. That is all clear on paper. And we have also seen that it's not so hard to actually procure these things.
It isn't.
Just create a company there and tell
Anybody
you, create
can
your
do it.
company. Come, I'll give you the contract to do this job.
Today.
So it is not for lack of the capacity to create a budget. It's not for lack of capacity to go through the procurement process, because people have flouted procurement processes by putting their own people in the procurement committees. And we have seen even this matter has been taken as grounds for impeachment, like in Kirinyaga we saw the other day. So it is not because of that. So why exactly is it that would have a low absorption? But also, let's go back into the other side where we have always heard about the release of money from the National Treasury. So sometimes you have presented this, it is a time-bound project, and you have presented it to the control of budget. Control of budget has approved, but by the time the money is then now released to you, when you're able to access that money,
The year is over.
the year is over. Is it also one of the reasons? It's something which would be interesting to understand.
Remember the issue surrounding the COVID money. That is the reason that the Auditor General gave. Said, you see, this money was released toward the end of the financial year, 2019-2020. So again, that people didn't have a budget for it, you can actually understand. And even when they got it, that they couldn't spend, because in the absence of a budget, one, you won't get the money, so how do you spend it? So there's a confusion that Treasury brings into the discussion. Yes.
So what we're looking at is it is not possible to have one reason as to why these absorption levels are low. It's probably a combination of several reasons as to why either one, money was not spent, or why there was no explanation with clarity as to what the budget lines were supposed to read. It could be several things that are happening at the same time, right?
Yep.
However, I think it would be also very interesting to note what do people in these counties feel has been the case? Do we see that since devolution was introduced into this country, that there has been an increase, there has been an improvement in development? Because if there has been, then there would be justifications for these other reasons apart from non-explanation because of clarity. Then you could bring in the argument like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe there was slow release from Treasury in terms of these funds coming. Because if development was taking place, right, over time there has been something that has happened, then you would be able to introduce other reasons as to why absorption levels were low.
You know, a lot of care and detailing went into determining how these things, how the issuance of funds, the management of it, the rotation of it, a lot of details went into this. Now, the truth of the matter is, when you talk about and you look at the list of all the counties as it's presented here on page 8 of the standard, and you do not see any county with 80% absorption, not one.
I think it was
Try.
82%
Yeah, who?
that we saw, right?
All right, tell me which
Absorption by 82%.
Yeah, but I'm waiting for Nduh to mention it to me.
At the highest I am seeing is
Hold on.
79.9. West
79.9,
I
right?
was waiting for the 82 because I may have missed it.
West Pokot 79.9, right?
Yeah.
No 80. No one touches 80. So what does this tell you? You see, whatever these requirements were, you can talk around it. and
83%.
Yeah, I knew I saw it. Bomet.
There's 83%
82% in Bomet.
Transoia.
West Pokot, 82.1. Bomet, 82%. I knew I had seen it somewhere.
Which list are you people looking at?
Are we not looking at page 8 of the standard?
I am.
Yeah, not now on the table, but in the body of the story.
text.
This is looking at the money by March this year.
No,
And the
I
text
am
of the
looking at
story,
the list of
at
the
the table.
expenditure and the absorption of the tables. That's what I'm looking at.
Yep. So according to the table, Transoia, what's the Transoia? 72.9% according to the table, which is now a combination of everything.
Yes.
72.9%. And then you have West Pokot 79.9%. Okay, in terms of absorption rate. And out of this, 18 billion has gone to recurrent expenditure, 7 billion has gone to development expenditure. Right?
Okay.
And this is a lot of money. You know where we're saying that there must be some other explanation? The poster child that everybody talks about,
Makwene.
County, 68.3 absorption.
That's what I'm telling you, that there's got to be something else apart from lack of explanation with clarity. There's got to be something else. Because if you speak to the people of Makwene, for example, or take anybody else, Machakos, even Kirinyaga, they'll tell you that, yes, we have seen some development that has taken place over the last 10 years, 7 years, whatever. We've seen something. So that money has been applied. But it could be that there is some tardiness in the release of these funds at some point, so it has to go back. It could be that there are other reasons as to why this hasn't happened.
Yes, that's one of the reasons, but does it necessarily have to represent money that goes back to the exchequer? What if indeed the money was spent, but you cannot justify it satisfactorily? As far as the exchequer is concerned, you have the money.
Then that's not absorption.
Whether it's late or not, then it doesn't mean it's been absorbed.
It's a lack of absorption.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
It's not been absorbed.
So you say absorption also includes what you cannot account for.
No,
It shouldn't.
I am saying that if you're looking for reasons, I just threw that in and said it could be a consideration as well. It's not that I know it is a consideration. No. Absorption in my mind simply means money that you have used.
You've
You're
used
given
and
this
you can
money,
see.
you're supposed
And
to
you've
use it,
used it.
and you have a budget, you have used it. If you don't use it according to that budget and something clearly,
It is when you draw. Basically,
Yes.
it's whether you came and told the control of budget, I need X amount for this, and the control of budget approves, and you went and withdrew the money. You've absorbed the money.
as far as they're concerned.
As far as they're concerned, now the Auditor General will come and see. So when you said that this is what you wanted to do with that money, is it exactly what you did with that money? Now, if you have not, then you call it misappropriation of that money, and that's where corruption comes in. 18 minutes after 9 o'clock, let's take a look at what's happening in the skies. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. All this money, 2.42 trillion shillings allocated to counties in the last 7 years. Do you feel the impact of the money in your own county? 0719 012 600. We'd love to know.
It's still mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 17 degrees, warming up just a little bit to highs of 24 today and a chance of showers later in the afternoon. Nyeri today will have showers as well, going to highs of 22 and lows of 13. Mostly cloudy conditions at the moment at 17 degrees. In Nakuru, it's mostly sunny at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 13 with a shower or two expected later. In Eldoret, it's mostly sunny at 17, highs of 21 and lows of 12 with thunderstorms expected later. Mostly sunny conditions in Kisumu today, 27 the high and lows of 19. Looking into Kakamega, where it's mostly sunny at 20 degrees, highs of 24 and lows of 15 with a chance of showers later. 26 degrees and mostly sunny in Mombasa. It'll change though later. The skies will open. Rain showers through most of the weekend, highs of 28 and lows of 23. In Malindi, it's partly cloudy at 26, highs of 28 and lows of 24 and a chance of wet conditions later. It's mostly sunny in Kampala at 22, highs of 26 and lows of 18 with thunderstorms in the forecast for later. It's bright and shiny now in Dar es Salaam. The fog seems to have lifted, highs of 30 and lows of 22 with only partly cloudy conditions later. Getting more and more warm in Johannesburg. 12 degrees, mostly sunny conditions today with highs of 23 and lows of 11. It's partly cloudy in Lagos at 25. It'll go to a high of 30 and come down to lows of 23. London is raining. At 14 degrees, it'll go to highs of 19 and the rain will continue well into Saturday. Paris is mostly cloudy and there's a thunderstorm warning of yellow here. Highs of 23 and lows of 13. And round things out in New York, where it's going to be a warm Friday. 32 degrees and partly cloudy conditions coming down to only a low of 23.
Spice up your life. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So we're looking at a report that was released by the Controller of Budget, looking at how much money has been sent to county assemblies, not county assembly, to counties since the commencement of devolution in 2013. And we're looking at how much money has gone. And I think this is Nakuru County at 95.4 billion shillings has received the second highest. Of course, this is after Nairobi, which has received 192.7 billion shillings over the last 7 years. Turkana County, 77 billion. Mandera, 69.5 billion. Wajir, 56 billion. Makueni, 56.7. Kitui, 61 billion. Kilifi, 72 billion. Kwale, 53 billion. Mombasa, 75 billion shillings. And we're asking you, if you are from any of these counties, have you felt the impact? Do you feel the impact of this money going straight? Because the whole idea of devolution was we stopped concentrating money and decision making in Nairobi, and we devolved the decision making. So several functions were devolved, and these functions include agriculture, include health, and others. And not all functions have been devolved. So in the functions that have been devolved, do you feel the impact of this 2.4 trillion shillings that has gone to the counties in your own county? You see, a lot of it also goes into recurrent. This is paying bills and paying even salaries. Even when it comes to salaries and people being employed and then improving their own livelihoods because now they have steady income. Would you say that you can feel that in your county? 0719 012 600 or Spice FM KE, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Would love to hear from you this morning. So, CT, we're talking about looking at how much money has gone into all of these counties, right? And this is the what devolution was supposed to do. Looking at then how much they've been able to absorb and how much they've not been able to absorb. If you've been able to absorb 74.2 billion shillings of all the money that has been sent to you as Isiolo County, and then looking at Isiolo should be here, number 13. Where is 13 in this? This list is all over. 13 is Tharaka Nithi, 25 25 billion shillings, right, in Tharaka Nithi. That's how much has gone to Tharaka Nithi. Would you feel the impact of 25 billion shillings in Tharaka Nithi County in the last 4 years? In Embu, 36 billion shillings that has gone to Embu. Would you be able to say Kirinyaga, 30 billion shillings has gone to Kirinyaga in that time? In Samburu, 29 billion shillings. Baringo, 39 billion shillings. Isiolo, 25 billion. Would you say that you can really justify and say, oh yes, actually that money has come in, it has sorted us out so much?
What do you see? I mean, where are we now? Look at Nairobi 7 years ago, and just take a mental picture of what has happened in Nairobi.
Nairobi 7 years ago, 7 years today.
Yeah.
Healthcare 7 years ago, healthcare 7 years today. We are building, how many new units are we building now?
100 units in Nairobi,
Yep.
the Nairobi metropolitan area. So over the last 7 years, what really has happened? If you just want to look at health alone, that at this is what
24 new units in Nairobi.
Year 8
Hospitals.
right?
This is,
year,
yes,
This is
the
year
8th
8 of
year.
devolution, right? So up until now, that has not
How
really
many new
happened.
health facilities have been
Built. What
built
have you
in
seen?
Nairobi?
How has that impact been felt? And I think that's one of the only ways that you'll be able to then gauge and see that it's actually
And
happening better.
what has been the increase of the population of Nairobi in those years as well?
Because we didn't have 4 million people in Nairobi 8 years ago.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, there's been a significant increase in terms of that. What has been the state of? What has been the state of? Well, I mean, you can't really gauge some other things in a metropolis like Nairobi, such as agriculture, for example.
Oh yes, you can.
So I mean, it's not the seat of agriculture or tilling or farming
Consumption.
in the country, but consumption exactly. So how then would you be able to look at it and say that yes, we can actually feel that the monies that have been sent or spent in this county, for example, are adequate or are representative of the development that you see?
There's a small detail when it comes to the issue of revenues in the counties, and that has to do with the revenues that the counties themselves raise.
generate?
Yes. So if to answer your question, if you were to understand the changes that have occurred in a county, you talk about the population, you talk about what happens, the activities, economic activities, you would look at its revenue. The revenue that it collects should correspond with the increase in the demands, the need, the supply. All these things should help you understand the increase. But if you look at most counties, some of them moved from a municipality or a council, and it was a much bigger geographical area with more pay points when it comes to just revenue collection. And the collection totals went down instead of going up. So there are things that you can look at and actually that will help you quantify the reality of devolution when it comes to the money received, the money spent, the money that are raised. It is not difficult to do the arithmetic. It isn't. Where the difficulty comes in is not in doing the arithmetic. Where the difficulty comes in is in what we read in the papers in terms of what is used as a way of explaining the certain circumstances that people find themselves in, explaining the amount of monies that seem to have been reported as having been stolen, the amount now, to obfuscate this matter further, there's now the amounts that we're talking about are staggering 2 trillion shillings that have been spent that has gone to all our account in the last 8 years. Now, when you look at those numbers and you ask the question, just from a simple perspective, I, as a citizen of this particular part of the world, of the part of the country, I expected certain services. Where have I seen an improvement? Because the spending of this money was supposed to bring about that improvement. Where can I say?
Where would you say that you've seen
I've
it?
seen it, yes.
Let's look at then the areas where you should be looking out for this kind of improvements and services, right? Because the devolved functions for counties are as below. One is agriculture, and that is very clear what agriculture is all about. Crop and animal husbandry, livestock, sale yards, county abattoirs, plant and animal disease control, fisheries, right? That's agriculture. 2, it's county health services. And this will, of course, include health facilities and pharmacies, ambulance services, promotion of primary health care, licensing and control of undertakings that sell food to the public, veterinary services, cemeteries, refuse removal, control of air pollution. And then we go into cultural activities, public entertainment, and public amenities like betting and casinos, racing, liquor licensing, cinemas, video shows and hiring, libraries, museums, sports and cultural activities, county parks, beaches, and recreation facilities. And then the other one is transport. Roads, these are the county roads, not the main highways. The main highway that, for example, cuts across one county to the next, that's under the Kenya National Highways Authority. Now, the county roads are the roads within a county, from one village to the next. Street lighting, traffic and parking, and we've seen street lighting, and the governors coming up with these solar lamps in their areas. Public road transport, ferries and harbors for those that have water bodies. And then the other one is animal control and welfare and trade development regulations. This is getting money from markets, trade licenses, fair building markets, fair trading practices, local tourism and generating revenue from that, cooperative societies. And then there is county development, pre-primary education, and implementation of certain specific national government programs, and ensuring and coordinating participation of communities. This is public participation. These are the functions that are being taken, transferred to counties. So when it comes to health or early learning, early education, pre-primary education, has there been an improvement in pre-primary education centers in your county? Can you say that we had the only nearby nursery schools were found here, and now we have an increase in the number of nursery schools? Can we say that? Can you say we only had this kind of local health facilities that were available, and now people can say that instead of traveling such a long distance, now we have a nearby local health facility, local clinic or local dispensary, local health center? Can we say that in the counties in all those years? If it's about local roads within the county, can you say that between town A and town B, now the road is much better? It's more motorable.
Can we say, for instance, the health services in this county have improved tremendously?
Well, I'll give you an example. Between here, where we are sitting at this moment, the next public health facility is in Machakos County. Between here on Standard Road, in Standard Building, on Mombasa Road.
The next health facility?
The next public health facility is in Machakos County.
Heading which direction?
Let's go east.
So heading this way.
Mombasa Road.
East.
Down Mombasa Road.
Yes.
The next one is in Machakos County.
Yes.
There
And
must be one in Embakasi.
I'm telling you, I'm
Or Mama Lucy. It's not
going in
far.
that direction. If you're headed north, yes, but I said east.
If you're going this
Yes.
along the road.
Yes. And inside Machakos County, not even on the outskirts. That's just as an example. Public health facility. I'm not talking about private. Public health facility. The next one, going east, is in that direction. All right? So there's one example. Now you want to talk about...
There's none in the river?
nope, not public.
That's Machakos County.
But it is Machakos County, but there actually is not a public facility in Athi River. It's
There is.
private. It's private.
No. There's a public dispensary
Where?
in Athi River, in town within Athi River.
Public dispensary.
Okay.
It has a name.
I just don't remember the name.
You know the point that Nduh is making.
Athi
to
River
me
is an old
valid.
town.
I know it's an old town, but even I was thinking, as you were saying,
And there was Mavoko municipality which used to operate.
yes, I'm thinking of that. But the point she's making here, and for me that's a valid one. Huh? If indeed this dispensary has remained a dispensary, then something isn't being done. You know why? The dispensary was set up to meet the needs of the time. Those needs have changed. That area became a dormitory town a long time ago. So a dispensary cannot possibly meet the needs of the population that are there.
In present day.
It can't. So I would like remember one of the things that happened with the devolution
Yeah.
that I saw. What had previously been health centers were turned into hospitals. They didn't necessarily meet the requirements of what you would consider a hospital, but they were turned into. Dispensaries were quickly cobbled up and became health centers. What had been hospitals now became a sub-county hospital. And then over the years, they've tried to improve them so that they actually have the standards that are supposed to meet that category that they have been put into. But did it happen right across board? That really is it. And then when that happened, were other facilities built to meet the needs that it previously met
Yep.
for a smaller,
For a smaller
population. You see, That, I think, is what is lacking. And that's why I'm saying your point to me is valid.
Yeah, it is actually valid because you look at areas like, let's say, Syokimau,
Yes.
right? So Syokimau, during the days of the Mavoko municipality, we did not have many people residing there.
No.
How many
hardly.
people now reside in Syokimau?
Whoa.
Do they have access to proper health facilities? Because you'd have, in fact, in Syokimau, you need a certain level, maybe a level 3 or so.
The
of
Syokimau
facility.
the Syokimau dispensary, for example, has been the residents have been literally begging the governor of Machakos to complete the dispensary for the last 8 years. It's still a shell of what it started out.
Meaning they
as.
saw the need and they began the process, but that process has not been
Has
completed.
never been
Yep.
completed.
Yep.
So I mean, it's just again an example of what we're talking about. Is that there's some areas that have been ignored, some areas that have not been seen as priority. Whereby, if you're saying there's devolution, that means that you can't pick and choose. The priority has to be spread across board. You can't say I'm going to focus on this area and not focus on another. It has to be across board, and I think that may be another problem that has not been addressed. That you're going to choose the areas where you're going to do something. No,
High
it
impact,
has to be
just like Nuruddin Haji.
no, in this case, you can't because there are populations surviving and existing regardless.
But what do you do with your limited resources?
Well, if it depends on what you're going
Because
to choose.
maybe that's the other problem, that if you say that you need to be democratic and build health facilities across all the sub-counties, for instance, then you start all of them at the same time, you're not going to finish them. It will take you much longer to finish them.
You know what I found interesting, Eric, in my travels, is that even before devolution, I would go to parts of the country where you actually find a health facility. You'll find, for instance, there were 3 units that were meant to accommodate the health personnel. But you have one health personnel, a nurse.
Yeah.
The person who helps this health personnel is somebody who is a villager, whom they have trained. Essentially, their job is to counter drugs and just, okay. And if you look carefully, you'll find one of those houses. You look at the greenery and you marvel until you realize that some of that greenery is growing in the middle of a house. Meaning, so you're not sure they're in a wildlife sanctuary, sanctuary, because what is certain is an example. It sounds bizarre, but it's true. Of there are more health facilities than the health workers, and when you inquire, what you'd find is this: yes, the government was supposed to post a certain number of health workers there, but because of its remote nature, they will report. That's it.
That's it. They check in and then check
That's
out.
it. Because this one person, even though they get, is supposed to do everything. And they realize, no, it can't be done. And by the way, it wasn't 1 or 2 health facilities. There were many. Many places that even qualified just to be as a trading center would have a dispensary. Now, a dispensary, then, as the name suggests, is actually supposed to dispense drugs. Okay? But with the time and the need, that dispensary didn't move. It stayed exactly where it was now. You asked the question about resources. There's an entire discipline that actually focuses on that very thing, understanding that one, resources by their nature are scarce. It's called economics. And because they're scarce, you need to plan for them. So what do you prioritize? It's a planning issue. The governor of Machakos told us close to 70% of what he gets, he puts into this particular resource. Yes.
Let's talk about that as we come back from this break. 0719-012-600. Join the conversation. 600. 22 minutes to 10 o'clock. What's happening on the roads? We'll tell you shortly.
Okay, traffic seems to have dissipated in most parts of the NMA, and also outside of this, we don't have a heightened level of traffic entering into Nakuru town this morning. It's expected. It is going into the weekend. And we still see that within on Uhuru Highway, it's going to take some time to get off of that. The southern and eastern bypasses, by the way, there's no traffic there this morning. Just the notification of road closure Bagadi Way from tomorrow, 29th, until Sunday the 30th, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. The road will be closed on a section of Bagadi Way to allow the contractor on site to install a footbridge truss. Okay, so that's being worked on. Plan accordingly, because if you get onto Bagadi Way, chances of you getting stuck tomorrow and Sunday are quite high. All right? Okay, so it looks like it'll be an okay day, except if you're on Uhuru Highway today. All right, Spice of MKE through the day, just in case you see something that you need to alert people about.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Having had a conversation with several governors, they tell you that so there are those that in the first term came and embarked on those visible projects. So, for example, improving the health facilities or even expanding health facilities or upgrading health facilities. And many projects across the country were geared towards that because people understood that health is a devolved function and people also understood that health is an immediate and direct need. So you'll go to many counties and find this particular hospital was expanded. For example, Thika Level 5 Hospital, there was an entire project that was put up by Governor Kabogo to increase the bed capacity, right? And other health facilities. Then there are those that will tell you about roads. That the other thing that people wanted and people felt that they needed to see was roads. And a lot of now grading of these roads was happening across the country in various counties. Then it rains. And because this was not tarmac road, it was basically Maram road, the Maram is washed off by the rains. And within a short time, you need to repair those roads. After having spent $1 billion shillings of a county budget in one financial year working on roads, it rains and that whole thing goes. And people start looking back and asking you, Governor, unafanya kazi gani? Unatufanyia nini? They do not understand. So there are very many governors who actually say that when it comes to roads, you just do the small patchwork to maintain so people can see. And then you go and put up something else.
Eric, when you talk about roads, I mean, there are all sorts of categories of roads, surely. And even, should we say, the one which costs the least amount of money, for it to be washed away by one rainfall, something was not done right. Why are these Maram roads called all-weather roads? Because it requires a lot of rain over a long period of time for you to even see whether you use the correct aggregate, whether you compacted it properly, whether you built lovely passages for water to go through. All these things. Huh?
It's a holistic. Building a road is not just putting that grader on that road.
No, it's not. In fact, the grader can cause you a problem because when it clears the earth, you know what you've done? You've gone and
loosened.
Yes, exactly. You've loosened it. So, my friend, when it rains,
Mother Nature will just always find her way.
Yes. So, the thing is this: if we leave the confusion that met our first governors when they came across all this money and someone was giving them the headache of spending it, okay? If we leave that argument aside and ask the question, do these leaders understand that the costs of the development projects, for instance, that are required are actually known? It's not that people don't know what a type of road costs. It is
It's not like people don't know
what it should cost. No, they do. And it's not that people don't know what, for instance, a well-equipped hospital bed, if you look at the square meterage within it, what it costs per square meter,
Right.
it is known. So then when you then give a total cost at the end of it that represents something like 5 times the size of that hospital, people ask you, excuse me,
Where are you?
hey.
Hold on a minute.
There is no county in this country that does not have people who understand these details. None. So what you're saying is, it's from that arithmetic that you ask, look, the money couldn't have gone into this. So,
There's
so
absolutely
It's
no
clear
way.
that it wasn't for health. It's clear that it wasn't for roads. It's clear that it wasn't for this. So where did it go? Because if there is some development that took place, we should be able to see it.
actually you should. Actually you should.
Or have used it. Or have
It's
come
called
into
tangible
interaction.
development.
Right.
John in Nyandarua, good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
We are
Fine,
fine.
thank you, John.
Your team?
We're
We are
good.
well,
Yes,
thank you.
we are fine. Okay. Now I wanted to contribute on this evolution thing because it's a very interesting thing that is what all about. Evolution was a very dear idea, and everyone loved it. And a lot of money has been pumped into devolution, which is amounting to more than 2.4 trillion. But I'm clear that this money is not reflecting in the counties as it's supposed to reflect in terms of development. This has to do with, in my view, to do with the structure setup of devolution. Because, for one, politics devolution should have been purely development matter. So, in fact, that is why most of the money is divided into recurrent expenditure, and the corruption, accounts to a substantial portion of the resources that are devolved. So, devolution, in my view, would only succeed the day politics would be vacated from devolution. Because with the political setup of devolution, even in employment, there is a lot of nepotism. For instance, somebody from Wajir cannot come and serve in Nyandarua. Somebody from Nyandarua cannot serve in Wajir. So what should be done is for a national, public service board to be established to be taking care of employment in the counties, so that we may get the right people to serve counties, professionals. For instance, corruption would be very minimal if we had a very, very efficient internal checkup system within the counties. For instance, the people of the board would have noted what is taking place if there was a very efficient internal check system. It should not take the external auditors to come and point out that something is wrong in a particular county. It should be discovered early by those who are doing the job internally. So we need to do a lot in terms of putting the proper structural, game plan for devolution to succeed.
Let me just ask you, just to give a scorecard, John. In Nyandarua County, so can you feel the effects or the impact of the money that has been sent to Nyandarua County in that time?
Very little. Very little. Because we should have sales more. For instance, roads,
I want to tell you how much we are talking about, John. We are talking about 36.4 billion shillings in 7 years.
Yeah, but it's not visible. Let me say. It's not visible, realistically. Because for one, in the area that I live, there is no water. And water is a very cheap thing.
Yeah.
This is something we should have taken a few years to give to the people.
Which area is this that you live in, John?
Area called Henny.
Henny.
Henny in Nyandarua. H-E-N-I.
Yeah, Henny.
There is no water. Yeah.
What's the population of Henny, John? Just an estimate.
An estimate in the last general election of 2,000 adults have been registered as voters. So we have, let's say, we have about less than 10,000.
But would you say that there are other parts of Nyandarua as well that suffer the same fate as Henny?
Exactly, most of the parts.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
So are you saying across the county, you're not able to see this development that would be commensurate to this money that's said to have been spent?
It is very minimal. Very minimal, shall I say.
When you talk about water, we have to remember that Nyandarua sits in the catchment.
It does.
Of water in this country.
No, that's where I was going with it. Yes. That's where I was going with this.
We have the Abadeas, but I can tell you we have no water.
Oh.
This is the fact of the ground.
That is a very unfortunate story. Yes.
Very unfortunate indeed. Although there was a borehole which had been done earlier by the former governor. So I think this one is also promising that he will do it.
He doesn't have much time.
3 years down the line.
A year and a half.
Yeah.
He has a year and a half.
He doesn't have much time.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to restructure devolution, to professionalize devolution.
You're right.
John, what about your health services? I'm curious.
The health services, well, they are there. Some hospitals have drugs, but others don't have.
What is the nearest hospital in Henny?
In Henny, we have a health center here. That one has drugs here. Let me say, we never miss drugs, which in fact is a plus.
Right.
Yeah, but you see, when the minister was visiting Natal is best.
For COVID.
Yeah, for COVID.
How many kilometers is it from Henny to Nyahururu?
It's over 100.
They took beds 100 kilometers to show the
They
minister
took the,
that we are
they took
ready.
the best from the dispensary.
Are they back?
No, not yet.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
John, thank you very
Yeah.
much for your contribution. Asante sana, John. And
All
keep
right, all right,
listening.
Martin. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, John. This is John in Nyandaro. What is the experience in your county? 0719-012-600. Hey,
Wow.
beds were transported from Henny 100 kilometers to Nyandarua because the health CS was coming, and we're going round to see the county's preparedness for COVID-19.
Yes, now they're ready.
Do we have the bed
Say where
capacity?
they needed to be.
Yes, we have the bed
We'll
capacity.
bring and show you.
Yes, there's a bed capacity in the county. Yes.
It's
Yes.
there. We answer truthfully.
Is there maternity bed capacity? Yeah.
Yes.
When there's no COVID, we have. 10 minutes to 10. This is a situation room. Let's remind you about this portal by the Kenya Ports Authority, kpa.co.ke/Captain KARGO.
So, CT asked.
Welcome back.
No, I was there. I was just. CT asked a question about, so can I make a phone call? Or, if I didn't get the email when I should have, or I didn't get a response to my letter which I had sent, can I make a phone call? And these are one of the standards that, as we talk about correspondence standards, that 24/7, there's availability to take your calls. Somebody's going to be on the other side of the phone answering your call within 3 rings. Somebody's going to pick up, right? Didn't you like that sound?
3 rings.
Yes.
Toot, toot.
I like mine better. But identifying departments, call, and the name of the officer answering. So you can confirm for later reference, for future reference, whom you spoke to, what they told you, and you can follow up with that. So that's the promise that they've made. Those are the standards which they say they're going to keep high. And the captain has said you can find all this information, again, for reference, on the portal. captaincargo.kpa.co.ke.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
In the last 7 years, and we hear from a resident of Henny, which is in Nyandarua County, that they don't have access to water. The absorption rate in Nyandarua County is 70.4%. Out of all the money that has gone to Nyandarua, 64 billion has gone to development budget. So if you look at 64 billion over 7 years and look at the pressing needs, you've got roads to do, you've got dispensaries to equip and keep buying drugs, you've got all these things. Would you then say, maybe it's just that thing of juggling and wondering, we don't have piped water, but can you guys walk that distance? If you can, just leave
But
for
why
now.
must they? Because the provision of water, yes, it may be costly. It is not the costliest of things that you need to do. Essentially, it's finding where you can source it. If you're talking about the piping of it, it may be expensive. But the truth of the matter is there's also the little question of harvesting it. There are all these technologies around water and ensuring that you utilize what's available. John has brought this issue up more than once, which means it must be a big problem.
It's a big issue.
Yes.
It's actually a
And
thorn in their
Nyandarua
flesh.
is predominantly agricultural. So you then have to ask the question, surely, should this not be something of a priority?
Right. It's interesting. Frederick Odhiambo says, the state of roads in my rural area of Kakamega, particularly the link road from Mumias to Musanda and then further to the interior, have not improved. They've been the same way for some time. The work done on them is mostly grading. So that thing you were talking about where governors say that they're going to just do a little bit of patchwork, at least make you know that something is going on. That's what we see. So there's a live example of exactly that, where some people are saying, look, for the longest time, or since even this whole idea of devolution came about, these money supposedly being spent, we don't see the effect of it. probably not enough in terms of examples to then make a judgment about.
You know,
right?
where roads are concerned, Ndu, there's also a little question of what people expect. Huh?
Yeah.
If you've been seeing a Maram road for as long as you can remember, you think then with devolution there should be a tarmac road. But you see, priority has to be given to what can be anticipated as the demand for the use of that particular road. The investment is supposed to meet this particular economical consideration. Now, if it doesn't, and by the way, when you're talking about an all-weather road or a Maram road, if it's properly made, that thing is as smooth as a tarmac road in terms of driving experience. To experience this, one probably needs to go into areas where tea is grown and look at the roads that are Maram, literally all Maram roads as we call them, and maintained by the tea factories. You have not driven on smoother roads.
Yeah, they're actually pretty smooth, yes. That you would see that it's a job that was well done.
Yes.
And with the intention of ensuring that it stays well done.
Yes, and then it's maintained also.
And maintained.
Yes.
So here you are as a governor. One of the things that you see is, well, CT, uko na ile tinga yako. So we are going to give you the job of, first of all, this is the contractor. He's going to hire the grader from you, bus. And this is how much I expect. So work around that and just know this is how much I expect. The rest, do the road. This may be part of where the problems come in.
The problem usually comes in precisely there because what the contractor, the person who actually gets the concession or is able to procure that particular contract, you are met with an amount that you are supposed to give away.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to minus it from whatever it is the contract sum is.
Right.
And then when you do the math, you realize that you also need to make a certain profit because you need to pay your... So whatever remains is what goes onto the road. It'll be a substandard road.
By design.
It'll be a substandard road. Or it'll be a substandard building.
Yeah, from the very beginning.
It'll be substandard.
Raymond in Langata, good morning. Raymond?
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Raymond.
I think I saw an interview where the governor of Kiambu was being interviewed on TV, and they said that he uses more than half of what he receives in the recurrent expenditure. And I think this has also contributed to low absorption because you realize that these governors have created posts which are not needed even in their administration. Like, for example, in my home county, Makueni, you realize the governors political advisor, the governors are youth advisor, the governors and the community advisor, gender advisor, and all these positions which are not needed in government. And these monies which are supposed to be used to help, for example,
for
in
development.
facilities in roads, for development, to be precise.
They are paying and maintaining these particular advisors.
Recurrent expenditure.
Thank you, Raymond. I mean, that's a valid point as we come to the end of the show. I mean, you have very many posts and so you ask yourself, so why do you need 17 advisors? Surely
17.
Wow, however many.
I think
you have as many advisors as CECs.
Usually, those
Youth
advisors
advisor.
will probably come from your own county, so you've created employment.
So that is development.
Of course, it's development. If you look at the trickle-down effect of what a job does in any African family, yes, you brought about development.
Sawa. Today's proverb.
A man who marries a beautiful woman and a farmer who grows corn by the roadside have the same problem. It is two things. One, the attraction. It's visible, you can see it, and because it's if you're talking about corn, you can't miss it if you're using that road. A good-looking woman is not you looking for her. If she happens to pass by, you will see, if you have eyes to see. So the element of attraction is there. Now, the problem here arises when the interest in the corn, because it's by the roadside, and when you see it, and the interest in a beautiful woman.
What now happens?
The corn is yours. You own it. The wife, in an African sense, is also yours. Okay? Now, people whose interests you would rather they kept to themselves.
Enough said. Thank you for tuning into the Situation Room this week. Join us again next week, Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Nduh Okoh. Say goodbye for the week and what's happening later in the day.
Right. So enjoy uninterrupted music until 3 p.m., where Monique will come and drive you home on the Spice Drive until about 7 p.m. And then the adults in the room will come and take you into the weekend till 10 p.m. And that's Emmanuel, Eric, and Barbara.
So see you again next week. Have a lovely weekend. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything I spice it.
Spice up your life